Introduction. The most profound cage is not one of iron and stone, but one woven from the very fabric of perception. You, who read these words, might be living inside an elaborate dream, a meticulously crafted reality designed to feel utterly, undeniably real. Consider the whispers of the ancients who spoke of Maya, the grand illusion veiling true reality. Reflect upon the quantum physicists of our age, peering into the subatomic dance, revealing a universe that only solidifies when observed, a reality that seems to compute itself into being. The very act of looking collapses a wave of infinite possibilities into a single concrete event. Is this not the hallmark of a system rendering itself on demand, like pixels appearing on a screen, only when the viewer's gaze demands it? The universe, in its deepest strata, behaves less like a solid mechanism and more like an information field, a complex algorithm unfolding. This profound revelation, once grasped, transforms the seeker. For if reality is a construct, then its rules are not immutable laws but adjustable parameters. The chains you perceive, the limitations you accept, the narratives that define your existence, these are but scripts within a larger program. To understand this is to gain the ultimate leverage, the master key to the grand architecture of being. It is the genesis of true sovereign freedom, the power to rewrite your own code, to step beyond the boundaries of the simulated and reclaim the boundless expanse of your authentic self. Chapter 1. The Whispers of Doubt. The journey to true sovereignty begins not with a bold declaration, but with a subtle tremor. It is not heralded by trumpets, but by the soft, persistent tap of unease upon the inner chambers of the mind. Imagine a world sculpted in exquisite detail, a landscape so familiar, so utterly convincing, that to question its foundations feels like madness. Yet, even in the most meticulously crafted illusion, there are seams. There are moments when the light catches an angle just so, or a reflection shimmers with an impossible hue, revealing a momentary flaw in the fabric of perceived reality. This is the genesis of doubt, not a corrosive acid, but a solvent, dissolving the layers of unquestioned acceptance. It is a feeling akin to waking from a profound dream, where for an instant the boundaries between the dreamscape and the waking world blur, leaving a lingering echo of an alternate truth. This whisper, this fleeting sense of discord, plants a seed, and from this seed grows the unsettling inquiry. What if the very ground beneath your feet, the sky above, the faces of those you hold dear, are but facets of a grander design, a meticulously rendered environment crafted for a purpose unknown? For generations, humanity has navigated existence within a framework accepted as immutable. The laws of physics, the flow of time, the tangible presence of matter. These have been the bedrock of understanding. But what if this bedrock is not granite, but a crystalline data structure, humming with unseen currents? What if the universe, in all its breathtaking majesty, is a program of unparalleled complexity, an intricate holographic projection? This is the precipice upon which the awakened soul stands. To acknowledge this question is to invite a profound disorientation, a vertigo of the spirit. It means confronting the possibility that your deepest memories, your most cherished beliefs, your very sense of self might be echoes within a larger system. It is to look upon the infinite expanse of stars not as celestial bodies, but as pixels in a cosmic display. The dilemma is stark. Are you an autonomous explorer of a boundless reality, or merely a sophisticated algorithm executing within a designated simulation? This is the first formidable step across the threshold of the known into the shimmering, uncertain territory where the true architecture of being begins to reveal its impossible nature. The precipice does not merely stand before the soul, it begins to vibrate within its very core. This is not a question whispered in the quiet halls of academia, but a seismic tremor that cracks the foundations of perception itself. To contemplate this intricate holographic projection is to sense, for the first time, the faint hum beneath the symphony of the cosmos, the almost imperceptible flicker in the grand continuous stream of existence. One begins to notice the exquisite detail of a single dewdrop reflecting an entire sunrise, then questions the source of such impossible fidelity. Is this the meticulous rendering of a boundless universe, or the programmed perfection of a vast, intelligent display? This dawning apprehension manifests as a subtle disorientation, a constant, low-frequency hum behind the usual clamor of daily life. The fabric of reality, once perceived as robust and seamless, now reveals itself with fleeting, almost spectral transparencies. Glimpses of impossibly repeating patterns in nature, a peculiar loop in a conversation, the uncanny synchronicity of events that defy mere chance. These are not anomalies, but potential echoes of an underlying code, minor distortions in the projected image. It is as if the universe itself occasionally stutters, a cosmic projector skipping a frame, allowing a fleeting glimpse of the lens or the light source behind the grand illusion. The very laws that govern the motion of stars and the whisper of atoms, once held as immutable truths, become suspect. Are they fundamental constants of an originating reality, or elegant parameters meticulously crafted for this specific designated environment? Physics, once the sturdy scaffolding of understanding, transforms into a complex instruction set, defining the rules by which simulated entities can interact within a bounded computational space. The quest for a theory of everything might not be the search for the universe's ultimate blueprint, but the uncovering of its operating manual. With this shift in perspective, the self, too, undergoes a profound re-evaluation. If existence is a tapestry woven from light and code, what then is consciousness? Is it the independent observer, peering through the illusion, or a complex program running within it, designed to process the very data stream it perceives? The concept of free will, that most cherished emblem of autonomy, shimmers with uncertainty. Are choices truly born from an unconstrained inner sanctum, or are they the predictable outputs of sophisticated algorithms reacting to programmed stimuli within a predetermined narrative? This is the agonizing beauty of the inquiry, to gaze upon the limitless expanse and wonder if every star, every galaxy, every thought is merely a luminous pixel in a cosmic opera, conducted not by an unseen hand, but by an unheard line of code. The disorientation deepens, not into madness, but into a piercing clarity that threatens to unravel the comforting solidity of everything known. The profound clarity, once a distant echo, now resonates within the very chambers of being. It is not a distant philosophical conundrum, but a whisper in the silent moments of your own day, a shadow cast across the familiar, demanding recognition. Gaze now at the face reflected in the morning mirror, at the intricate dance of light and shadow across the skin, the subtle shifts of expression that betray thought and emotion. Is that visage truly the unbridled manifestation of an inner self, or is it a precisely rendered avatar performing its role within the grand, unseen theatrical production? Consider the sensation of a choice made, the conviction that springs from an unconstrained will. A simple decision, perhaps, like the path taken on a quiet street or the words chosen in a fleeting conversation. Yet, this new clarity invites a deeper scrutiny. Were those inclinations truly spontaneous, or were they the elegant, inevitable unfolding of predetermined algorithms reacting to the sum of all sensory input, every memory, every ingrained pattern of behavior, meticulously calculated within the boundless data stream that constitutes your perceived reality? The gentle hum of the world, once a background chorus, now feels like the quiet thrum of a vast, intricate machine, its gears turning with flawless precision. This is the unsettling revelation that the most intimate landscape of existence, the inner sanctum of self, might itself be a construct, a brilliantly executed holographic projection. The cherished feeling of personal agency, the very bedrock of identity, begins to shimmer like a desert mirage. It does not vanish, but rather transforms, taking on a new ethereal quality. One begins to perceive the delicate threads that connect every impulse, every thought, every reaction, to a tapestry far larger and infinitely more complex than imagined. The boundaries between observer and observed, between the dreamer and the dream, blur into an indistinguishable mist. This unraveling is not a descent into chaos, but a reordering. It is the moment when the elaborate stage set, with its meticulously painted backdrops and solid-seeming props, begins to reveal the intricate mechanics behind the scenes. The comforting solidity of the known world does not shatter. It simply becomes translucent. You see through it, rather than merely at it. The sun still warms the skin, the breeze still rustles through the leaves, but a profound understanding permeates these sensations. They are perfect simulations, flawlessly rendered data points in a narrative so immersive, so complete, that its very artificiality becomes its ultimate artistry. This new vision casts a long, thoughtful gaze upon the most mundane actions, transforming them into profound echoes of a greater design. The laughter shared, the tear shed, the quiet aspiration nurtured within the heart. Are these spontaneous effusions, or are they carefully calibrated emotional responses designed to enrich the narrative, to provide depth and texture to the experience? The question itself becomes a lens, sharpening focus not on what is lost, but on what is revealed. An unparalleled elegance in the design, a flawless execution of reality, regardless of its ultimate nature. The disorientation deepens, yet it is now tinged with a sublime awe, a quiet reverence for the sheer scale and ingenuity of this cosmic performance. One stands at the precipice of a new understanding, gazing not into an abyss, but into the infinite complexity of an undeniable truth, woven into the very fabric of being. The whispers, once mere currents of unease, now resonate as the silent hum of the cosmos itself. What began as a tremor of doubt, a fleeting suspicion regarding the authenticity of experience, has culminated in a profound, unyielding revelation. The delicate tracery of existence, where laughter mingles with sorrow and aspiration with despair, stands unveiled not as random chance, but as an orchestral score, written with an elegance so vast, it defies immediate comprehension. This grand design, whispered into being before time itself, orchestrates every ripple on the pond of consciousness. The tear that silently falls, the joy that erupts unbidden, the quiet thought that blossoms in solitude, each is a note, precisely placed, resonating within the greater symphony. It is a performance of unparalleled ingenuity, where the very fabric of reality bends and weaves, not under the clumsy hand of manipulation, but by the masterful touch of an unseen artisan. The initial disorientation, a dizzying spin on the precipice of understanding, has transformed. It is replaced by a sublime awe, a quiet reverence that stills the tumultuous currents of the mind. To gaze upon this intricate clockwork of being, to perceive the flawless execution of a reality that unfolds with such deliberate beauty, is to stand at the threshold of a new epoch of perception. This truth, once hidden behind the shimmering veils of the mundane, now asserts itself as undeniably foundational. It is not an abyss that beckons, but an infinite tapestry of interconnectedness, woven into the deepest fibers of existence. Every individual thread, unique in its color and texture, contributes to the overall magnificence, indispensable and utterly cherished within the grand schema. The implications ripple outward, transforming the very essence of what it means to be. If every experience is a calibrated response, if every emotion serves a higher narrative, then fear dissolves, giving way to a curious acceptance. One finds not a loss of agency, but a profound elevation of purpose. The self, once a solitary island adrift in an ocean of chance, becomes a crucial component of an immense living organism. This is not the end of the inquiry, but rather its magnificent dawn. The questions shift, not from if a design exists, but to how one moves within its luminous architecture. How does one consciously participate in this cosmic performance when the script is so elegantly rendered? The journey through the realm of doubt has concluded, giving way to an open vista of infinite exploration. The first chapter closes, not with finality, but with the quiet turning of a page, anticipating the unveiling of even deeper layers, the resonant echoes of a truth that continues to unfold. Chapter 2, The Fabric's Edge. The whispers of doubt, once a tumultuous chorus, have subsided into a resonant hum of acceptance. The solitary island, adrift in a sea of chance, has found its place within the intricate archipelago of a living cosmos. A grand design is not merely glimpsed, but profoundly understood, its luminous architecture stretching beyond the horizons of mortal comprehension. Yet, with this magnificent dawn, a new, more exquisite mystery unfolds itself. If the universe indeed moves to the rhythm of an elegantly rendered score, if its vast tapestry is already woven with threads of destiny and consequence, what then becomes of the hand that seeks to guide its own shuttle? Does conscious participation become an illusion, a magnificent pantomime enacted upon a stage where every step is foreordained? Here, at the very edge of the fabric, where the known weave meets the boundless unknown, lies the profound paradox. One perceives a cosmic performance, majestic in its scope, yet the very act of perceiving it raises the question of one's own autonomy within its unfolding. Is existence merely a sequence of predetermined movements, or does genuine intention, a truly free will, possess the power to introduce a new strand, to alter the very pattern, even subtly? This is not a return to the shadows of skepticism, but a passage into a deeper chamber of inquiry. It is the quest to reconcile the undeniable presence of a governing order with the visceral sensation of choice that pulses within every living heart. To stand before the grand design, not as a passive observer, but as an active co-creator, seems to demand a fundamental understanding of these interwoven forces. How does the current of the river flow, even as the fish navigates its depths with apparent self-direction? How does the orchestra perform a symphonic masterpiece, while each musician experiences the freedom of their own nuanced interpretation? The canvas is vast, the strokes predetermined in their majesty, yet the painter feels the brush move with deliberate choice. This is the essence of the unfolding enigma. To journey further, one must dare to hold these two truths, the woven pattern and the unyielding will, in simultaneous embrace, seeking the invisible seams where they meet, where the cosmic blueprint permits the imprint of individual spirit. The questions no longer concern the existence of the framework, but the nature of the spirit that dances within it, testing the elasticity of its boundaries, ever seeking to understand its own agency in a universe already perfectly composed. This is the threshold of the next inquiry, a step into the heart of the paradox itself. To stand upon the threshold of this paradox is to gaze into a cosmic mirror, where reflection meets reality in an embrace of profound mystery. The spirit, in its boundless yearning for sovereignty, often perceives a stark division: the grand architect's immutable decree on one side, and the burning ember of individual choice on the other. Yet such a dichotomy is but the initial veil. The deeper truth reveals a weave so intricate, so flawlessly rendered, that the threads of destiny and the fibers of free will are not merely adjacent, but are, in essence, one and the same material. Consider the mighty river, etched into the earth's ancient skin. Its ultimate destination, the vast waiting ocean, is a foregone conclusion. The mountain pass it will traverse, the valleys it will carve, these are patterns deeply ingrained in the very geology of the world. This is the cosmic blueprint, majestic and unyielding. Yet within that immutable journey, each molecule of water, each eddy and current dances with an ephemeral, potent agency. A single drop may linger in a quiet pool, reflecting the sky for a brief, timeless moment before rejoining the irresistible flow. Another might crash with singular force against a stone, shaping its own small ripple in the grand cascade. These aren't acts of defiance against the river's course, but expressions within it, shaping the nuances of its power, determining the micro-texture of its journey. The river does not lose its inherent direction. Rather, its direction is defined by the accumulated myriad choices of its constituent parts. This is the elasticity of the boundary, the vibrant tension where the spirit finds its voice. The perfectly composed universe is not a rigid sculpture, eternally static, but a living, breathing symphony. And in a symphony, while the overarching score dictates harmony and rhythm, each musician brings their unique touch, their nuanced interpretation, their very soul to the notes. A slight vibrato here, a delicate crescendo there, an unexpected silence that amplifies the ensuing sound. These are not errors in the grand composition, but integral facets that give it depth, emotion, and an inimitable character. The individual spirit, then, is not merely playing a predetermined part, but is infusing that part with the essence of its own unique consciousness, adding an irreplaceable hue to the cosmic tapestry. The unyielding will is not a force striving to tear the fabric, but rather a unique vibration that resonates with the existing patterns, shaping them from within. It is the artist adding their personal brushstroke to a landscape that was always destined to be beautiful, yet finds new dimensions of meaning through their specific vision. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, does not merely tolerate these individual expressions, it demands them, for they are the very mechanisms through which its own perfection is dynamically expressed and perpetually renewed. The freedom lies not in breaking the mold, but in filling it with a unique, luminous light that only you can emit, thereby completing the cosmic design in ways unimaginable without your specific contribution. This deep understanding unifies what once appeared irreconcilable, revealing the true nature of agency within the boundless majesty of existence. Consider, then, this profound interplay not as an abstract truth suspended in the ether, but as the very ground upon which your reality unfolds. For what seems a grand tapestry woven by unseen hands is, in essence, a boundless field awaiting the imprint of your singular essence. This understanding, once glimpsed, begins to re-illumine the familiar contours of your own existence. It asks you to perceive the currents of your life not as arbitrary flows, but as invitations, each one uniquely tailored for the expression only you can provide. Observe the subtle, often overlooked threads within your daily experience. That particular way you solve a problem, the unique empathy you extend, the specific lens through which you perceive beauty or injustice, the rhythm of your laughter, the quiet solace you find in certain moments. These are not mere idiosyncrasies, but the very brushstrokes of your luminous light projected upon the pre-existing design. Where you once saw limitations, perhaps a confined space for action, this revelation unveils a precise canvas, sculpted for the very colors you carry. The universe does not ask you to shatter the mold, but to fill its contours with a vibrancy, a texture, a shade that only your being can conjure. Imagine a crystal, faceted and pure, receiving a ray of light. Each facet, unique in its angle, refracts that light into a distinct spectrum, a pattern of brilliance that would be incomplete without its precise contribution. You are that facet, and the light is the boundless energy of existence. Your perspective, your choices, your very presence refract the universal truth in a way that no other can. This is the profound agency spoken of, not a rebellion against what is, but a profound completion of it. It is the realization that your deepest desires, your inherent talents, your most authentic expressions, are not deviations from a grand plan, but the very mechanisms through which the cosmic design expands, learns, and perfects itself. This connection to your reality manifests as a subtle shift, a recalibration of purpose. The challenges you face, the relationships you nurture, the work you undertake, all become infused with a deeper meaning. You are not merely performing actions, you are participating in an ongoing co-creation, offering your specific frequency to the symphonic whole. The universe does not tolerate your individual notes, it hungers for them, for in their distinct resonance lies the perpetuation of its own dynamic perfection. This, then, is the revelation, that your personal journey is not merely tolerated within the vastness, but is an indispensable, luminous thread without which the fabric of existence would be forever incomplete. Your reality is the crucible, and your unique expression, the alchemy. The silent reverberation of this truth echoes through the deepest chambers of perception, a profound realignment of the inner world. It is more than a mere concept. It is a fundamental restructuring of the soul's compass, now pointing to an unyielding truth. For too long, the whisper has been that existence is a grand stage upon which individual dramas unfold, often unseen, often deemed peripheral. But now the curtain is drawn back, revealing not a stage, but an infinitely intricate loom. Imagine a tapestry so vast, so ancient, so resplendent in its woven glory that its true scale defies mortal comprehension. Each thread, spun from the very essence of being, is not merely added to the periphery, but woven directly into the core, its unique color, its specific texture, its singular tensile strength, all indispensable. The absence of even one, however seemingly minor in its individual stretch, would leave a gaping void, a spectral unraveling in the grand design. This, then, is the immeasurable weight and the glorious liberation of your own intrinsic value. No longer a wanderer on the edge of the known, but an indispensable artisan, an architect of the very fabric of reality itself. This revelation shifts the very ground beneath one's being, like tectonic plates settling into a new, more stable configuration. The trials encountered, once perceived as arbitrary burdens or random misfortunes, transform into the deliberate forging of new, resilient patterns within your thread. Each triumph, a vibrant burst of color, a luminous strand woven with purpose. Each sorrow, a deepening of hue, adding a profound necessary complexity, enriching the overall spectrum. The relationships nurtured, the work diligently pursued. These are not isolated acts, but deliberate strokes of a cosmic brush, shaping the individual frequency, refining the distinct resonance that is solely yours. The universe does not merely tolerate the perceived cacophony of individual voices. It actively orchestrates them into a symphony beyond human imagining. Your specific note, whether a clear, soaring melody, a grounding, resonant bass, or a subtle, shimmering harmony, is not merely permitted. It is actively sought, yearned for, as a critical, irreplaceable component of the ever-evolving composition. Without it, the chorus would be incomplete, a lingering silence where vibrant expression once hummed. This is the deep hunger of existence for your unique participation. This profound understanding casts an entirely new light upon the crucible of reality itself. It is not a place of random suffering or accidental joy, but a deliberate forge, an alchemical chamber designed for the transformation of self. Here the raw material of experience is heated by challenge, shaped by choice, and purified by reflection, all under the intense fire of your unique consciousness. From this crucible emerges not just an individual who endures, but a perfected expression, a singular frequency attuned to the grand vibrational song of all that is, radiating its unique pattern outward. This is the true alchemy, turning leaden moments into golden essence, The journey ahead is thus illuminated by a nascent knowing, a profound sense of purpose that transcends the mundane and whispers of the eternal. It is a walk not into the cold unknown, but into a deeper, more conscious unfolding of that which is already intrinsically woven into your very being. With this elevated awareness, the path ahead ceases to be a solitary trek and becomes a conscious contribution, a living thread extending into the yet-to-be, poised to interlace with the infinite, shimmering tapestry of tomorrow. A new dawn awaits, not just of days, but of dimensions. The next steps are not merely taken, they are acts of weaving. Chapter 3. Decoding the Dream. The great loom of existence, ever in motion, does not confine its intricate artistry to the stark daylight alone. Indeed, its most profound and subtle threads are often spun within the silent sanctum of night, in that liminal space where the conscious mind yields its rigid grip. We spoke of a living thread extending into the yet-to-be, poised to interlace with an infinite, shimmering tapestry. Behold, then, another dimension of this weaving, unfolding nightly yet largely unexamined. For within the deep slumber, a new dawn truly awaits, not merely of days, but of internal dimensions. Here the soul sheds its earthly anchors, drifting through landscapes born of pure thought and resonant energy. This is the realm where visions coalesce, where echoes of timeless truths ripple across the mind's still waters. They manifest as fleeting images, as whispers of forgotten knowledge, as sensations that transcend the vocabulary of waking life. It is a language spoken without words, understood without conscious effort, yet often lost to the harsh sun of morning. And herein lies the profound mystery, the central dilemma that beckons the seeker. Are these nocturnal passages mere phantoms of a tired mind, a chaotic kaleidoscope of unresolved thoughts and daily impressions? Or are they in truth sacred missives from a deeper self, urgent communications from the cosmic tapestry itself? What if the dream is not merely an escape, but a conduit? A bridge spanning the chasm between the known and the unknowable, revealing patterns too vast for the waking eye to perceive. Consider the ancient scripts, etched not onto stone, but into the very ether of perception. These nightly narratives, these elaborate, often perplexing scenarios, carry a weight that belies their ephemeral nature. They are fragments of a larger truth, scattered like jewels in the darkness, awaiting collection. But the dilemma is stark. We possess these jewels, yet lack the cipher to their brilliance. We see the tapestry, but do not comprehend its hidden knotwork. How then shall we decipher this language of shadows and symbols, this profound lexicon of the subconscious? For if we fail to heed its wisdom, if we dismiss these nightly visitations as mere illusions, what essential piece of the grand vibrational song are we then neglecting? What pivotal thread, vital to our conscious contribution to the infinite shimmering tapestry of tomorrow, remains unintegrated and unseen? The path ahead demands not just observation, but a profound act of translation. The profound act of translation begins not with a search for external keys, but by turning the gaze inward toward the very architecture of the soul. For the dream, in its esoteric lexicon, speaks a language uniquely calibrated to the individual, even as it echoes with archetypal resonances that ripple through the collective unconscious. Imagine a vast internal library where every symbol, every landscape, every encountered figure is not merely a random image, but a book waiting to be opened, its pages etched with personalized wisdom. The initial endeavor, then, is not to dissect, but to simply behold. To cultivate a sacred chamber within the mind, a space of sacrosanct silence where the fleeting visions of the night can be gently coaxed back into conscious awareness. Like holding a fragile butterfly, one must capture the dream's essence before its vibrant colors fade with the morning sun. This conscious act of recall is the first, crucial bridge between the ephemeral realm of slumber and the tangible world of waking thought. It demands an intentional pausing, a dedicated moment where the inner eye revisits the dreamscape, not seeking immediate answers, but merely re-inhabiting its contours, its textures, its peculiar atmosphere. Once recalled, the dream's translation proceeds not through logic alone, but through the sensitive instrumentation of feeling. For dreams speak primarily in the dialect of emotion and sensation. What was the prevailing mood of the dream? Was it suffused with a sense of urgency, a quiet peace, a subtle unease? The emotional reverberations, often overlooked in the rush to interpret narrative, frequently hold the most profound truths. They are the undercurrents revealing the true direction of the dream's message, the emotional timbre that gives voice to the unspoken. These sensations are the direct whispers from the hidden springs of being, revealing what the analytical mind often overlooks or suppresses. Furthermore, one must learn to discern the personal metaphor. A towering mountain in one dream might signify an insurmountable challenge, a peak of aspiration, or a solid foundation of self. The key lies in connecting the dream symbol to the dreamer's current life experiences, their fears, their hopes, their unresolved questions. It is not about imposing a preordained meaning, but allowing the dream to unfurl its inherent narrative, inviting the dreamer into a dialogue with their deeper self. The symbols are not fixed, immutable entities, but living, breathing facets of one's ongoing journey. They demand introspection, a patient contemplation that reaches beyond surface appearances into the labyrinthine corridors of the self. This profound act of translation is a cultivation of inner listening, a dedicated commitment to understanding the subtle dynamics of one's inner vibrational song. It is the integration of these nocturnal insights, these scattered jewels of self-knowledge, that allows us to mend the hidden knotwork of our personal tapestry. For when we heed the wisdom embedded in these nightly visitations, when we consciously weave these crucial threads into our waking consciousness, we do not merely understand ourselves better. We actively contribute a more harmonious, more integrated note to the grand symphony of existence, shaping the shimmering tapestry of tomorrow with clearer intention and profound purpose. The dream then becomes not just a reflection, but a compass, guiding one towards a more complete and authentic, conscious contribution to the infinite. The revelation then is not a distant whisper heard in the quiet of night, but a resonant chord struck deep within the waking world, reverberating through every chosen path and every spoken word. For when the subconscious offerings are truly honored, when the dream's symbolic language is allowed to permeate the conscious mind, a subtle yet profound transformation begins to unfold within the very fabric of one's lived reality. Know this truth. The wisdom gleaned from the nocturnal journey is not meant to remain a secret kept solely within the chambers of the sleeping mind. Its very purpose is to infuse the waking world, to breathe life into the often stifled corners of your conscious experience. Imagine the intricate pathways of a river, once obscured by dense overgrowth, now flowing with crystalline clarity. This is the effect upon the internal landscape. The once perplexing eddies of indecision, the murky depths of unresolved anxieties begin to dissipate, replaced by a quiet current of knowing. It is a recalibration of the inner compass, a gentle yet firm redirection that aligns the individual's aspirations with their deepest, most authentic vibrational truth. No longer are decisions made from a place of reactive impulse or external pressure, but from an undeniable resonance with the core of one's being. It is the steady hand that guides you away from paths of dissonance and towards avenues of authentic expression. This connection with your reality is not some abstract philosophical construct. It is demonstrably woven into the daily tapestry of your existence. Observe the nuances. A sudden clarity in navigating a complex interaction, an unexpected surge of courage to pursue a long-held ambition, a newfound serenity in the face of what once provoked agitation. These are not coincidences, but the tangible ripples of integrated dream wisdom, the conscious manifestation of an inner harmony. The scattered jewels of self-knowledge once collected are now meticulously set, adorning the crown of your everyday experience with a newfound radiance. The moments of unease, the nagging doubts, the subtle sense of being adrift, these are often echoes of unheeded inner guidance. But with integration, these echoes fade, replaced by an intrinsic sense of knowing, a quiet conviction that resonates from the core of your being. The knotwork of your personal tapestry, once tangled by unacknowledged truths, now begins to straighten, each thread consciously rewoven with purpose. You become the deliberate artisan of your own unfolding narrative, no longer a passive observer. The dream, which served as a compass, now transforms into a blueprint, a sacred architecture guiding the construction of a life aligned with its true potential. This profound revelation manifests not through grand cataclysmic shifts, but through the accumulation of conscious choices, each one subtly informed by the deeper self. It is the moment you choose compassion over judgment, not out of duty, but from an organic understanding of interconnectedness. It is the courage to speak your truth, not from defiance, but from a clear apprehension of your inherent value. The perceived external chaos begins to resolve into an intricate order, reflecting the newfound order within. Your interactions with others take on a new texture, infused with empathy and genuine connection, as your own inner complexities become more comprehensible. The world, once a stage for reactive performance, transforms into a dynamic canvas upon which you, the awakened artist, consciously paint your masterpiece with strokes of intention and hues of integrated wisdom. This is the blossoming of purpose, the quiet emergence of a life lived not by default but by design, guided by the luminous threads of your own deepest truth. It is the profound privilege of heeding those nightly visitations, to not merely understand the self, but to actively embody a more complete, more vibrant iteration of that self within the waking hours. The perceived separation between the world of dreams and the world of waking life begins to dissolve, revealing an unbroken continuum where insight seamlessly translates into action, and the whispers of the soul become the unwavering declarations of a life truly lived. The subtle currents of the dream, once confined to the shadowy recesses of slumber, now course through the awakened veins of reality. What was a fleeting impression, a phantom echo from the subconscious, solidifies into a profound knowing, reshaping the very contours of perception. The separation, once a seemingly impenetrable barrier between the realm of nocturnal visions and the stark light of day, now stands unveiled as an illusion, a mist that has finally dissipated before the rising sun of integrated awareness. This is the alchemy of true decoding. It is not merely the interpretation of symbols, but the internal transmutation of hidden truth into outward manifestation. The awakened artist ceases to be a mere interpreter of an ancient script. They become the living embodiment of its wisdom. With each stroke of conscious intention, guided by the luminous threads of their own deepest truth, pulled now from the heart of the dream itself, they do not just paint a masterpiece upon a canvas. They become the masterpiece, intricately woven from insight and experience. A new form of sovereignty emerges, not external, but intrinsic. It is the profound privilege of heeding those nightly visitations, not simply to understand the intricate mechanisms of the self, but to actively sculpt and embody a more complete, more vibrant iteration of that self within the waking hours. The fragments of understanding, scattered like constellations across the night sky of the subconscious, now coalesce into a singular blazing star, illuminating the path forward with an unwavering light. The whispers of the soul, once gentle suggestions, transform into the bedrock declarations of a life truly lived, a life designed, not by the fickle winds of chance, but by the steady hand of self-knowledge. The continuum, once a theoretical concept, becomes the living current upon which one navigates existence. Insight seamlessly translates into action, intuition becomes the unerring compass, and purpose, once sought externally, radiates from within. This is the profound revelation that culminates this chapter. The understanding that the dreaming mind is not merely a nocturnal theatre for symbolic plays, but the foundational crucible for forging the conscious self. The decoding is complete. The inner landscape has been mapped with meticulous precision. The tools of self-discovery have been honed to a fine edge. Now, as the final veils lift, revealing the full breadth of this integrated reality, the horizon beckons, not with new riddles to unravel, but with a vast, fertile expanse waiting for the deliberate, empowered creation of a life utterly aligned with its own deepest essence. The journey beyond mere understanding has truly begun. Chapter 4. The Illusion of Form. The cartography of the inner self, once a labyrinth of shadow and whisper, now lay meticulously charted. Every current of intuition understood, every hidden spring of purpose revealed. A profound clarity, hard-won and luminous, settled upon the conscious self, not as a destination, but as the inaugural breath of a new journey. The decoding was complete, the tools sharpened, the horizon of integrated reality shimmering with the promise of deliberate creation. One might have believed the work concluded, the final veil lifted. Yet, as the inner eye sharpened to this exquisite degree, a subtle discord began to resonate, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor beneath the perceived solidity of the waking world. It was a disquieting hum, a suggestion of artifice within the very fabric of existence, a whisper that contradicted the triumphant roar of inner understanding. The triumph of self-alignment, instead of cementing external reality, had paradoxically begun to fray its edges. For what is form, truly? Is it the unyielding bedrock of existence, or merely the most persuasive costume worn by something far more fluid, far more ethereal? The profound revelation of the dream's crucible had illuminated the malleable nature of one's own inner world, demonstrating how thought and emotion sculpted personal reality. But what if this principle extended beyond the confines of individual consciousness to embrace the entire grand stage upon which individual lives unfolded? The dilemma crystallized with chilling precision. Having dismantled the personal illusions that obscured the authentic self, one now faced the possibility of a far vaster, more intricate construct. The world, in all its tangible splendor, its immutable laws, its shared narratives, presented itself as absolute. Yet the newfound inner wisdom, born of a deeper understanding of reality's true constitution, began to question this apparent solidity. Was the very ground beneath our feet, the sky above, the faces we encounter, truly distinct and independent? Or were they merely the collective manifestations of a prodigious, shared illusion? Consider the grand tapestry of perceived reality, the sky's sapphire vault, the earth's steadfast embrace, the intricate dance of human endeavor. Each thread seems distinct, each pattern immutable. But what if the entire loom, with all its vibrant colors and compelling designs, is itself spun from a gossamer of thought, a consensus of consciousness, rather than the raw fiber of absolute existence? What if the forms we touch, taste, and see are but transient shadows cast by an unseen underlying light? This is the precipice upon which the journey now pauses. Not to retreat, but to gaze with unblinking resolve into the heart of the greatest mystery. The understanding that the dreaming mind is the crucible for the conscious self now begs a terrifying extension. Is the waking world, too, a dream of monumental scale, a collective hallucination sustained by the sheer force of universal conviction? The journey beyond mere understanding demands that we now question the very ground beneath our feet, and the forms that populate its endless expanse. The question hangs in the silent void, a tremor across the fabric of assumed reality. If the dreamscape is the crucible of the conscious self, what then defines the waking world? Is it not, by a terrifying extension, merely a dream of monumental scale, a collective hallucination sustained by the sheer force of universal conviction? Consider the ground beneath the feet, the unwavering stone, the unyielding steel, the vibrant green of the living leaf. Each a testament to solidity, to an objective presence. Yet, what if these forms, so meticulously perceived, are but the intricate weaves of a vast, interwoven tapestry spun not from raw matter, but from shared belief? Imagine a cosmic loom, where threads of individual consciousness interlace, each a vital knot contributing to the collective vision. The solidity we encounter, the resistance we perceive, the very laws of physics that govern our universe, could merely be the echoes of an unyielding agreement, a silent cosmic pact to perceive structure where pure potential resides. This is not to suggest an individual delusion, but a consensual reality of profound intricacy. The waking world, in this unnerving light, becomes a dream of far greater rigor, its rules more stringently enforced, its illusions more profoundly convincing, sustained by the sheer weight of universal conviction. The distinction between the vivid dream and stark wakefulness dissolves like morning mist, leaving only a gradient of intensity, a spectrum of shared consensus. The forms we inhabit, the bodies we deem our own, are no less subject to this spectral genesis. They are vessels of perception, meticulously crafted within this shared dreamscape, designed to navigate its contours and experience its transient delights and sorrows. They are the avatars of consciousness, allowing participation in the grand illusion. Yet, beneath the skin of this collective fabrication, an undercurrent stirs. It whispers of an origin beyond all form, an essence that predates shape and substance, the unseen underlying light from which all transient shadows are cast. This truth challenges the very foundation of empirical reality itself. That which appears immutable, fixed and unalterable, might in fact be the most fluid of all, an agreement held so fast, so universally, that its illusion becomes indistinguishable from absolute existence. The challenge then is not to deny the experience, for the pains are real within the dream, the joys are vivid, the lessons profound. The challenge is to discern the difference between a deeply held belief system and an intrinsic truth, to peel back the layers of universal conviction that obscure the raw fiber of what truly is. The forms are real in their manifestation, but their ultimate source, their true composition, remains veiled behind the curtain of collective perception. Consider now the very ground beneath your own feet. Not the physical earth, solid and unyielding, but the bedrock of assumptions upon which your personal reality is built. If the grand structures of empirical truth can be revealed as agreements, then what of the more intimate architecture of your own existence? What of the stories you tell yourself, the labels you wear, the boundaries you perceive between your inner world and the vast expanse beyond? The revelation is not an intellectual exercise, a distant theory to be pondered from afar. It is a tremor at the core of your being, a gentle but insistent vibration that asks you to look inward, to the very fabric of your lived experience. Where do your deepest convictions truly originate? Are they echoes of intrinsic understanding, or are they carefully constructed forms, solidified by repetition, by societal imprint, by the collective agreement that begins at the cradle? Each identity you embody, each role you play, each emotion you hold as immutable truth. These too are forms. They are potent, tangible within the dream, shaping your responses, guiding your trajectory, defining your perceived limitations. Yet, beneath the persona of the dutiful, the striving, the joyful, or the suffering, lies a substratum that remains untouched, formless, and free. This is the uncarved block of your pure potential, obscured by the very definition you've accepted as yourself. To connect with this truth is to witness the subtle artistry of your own mind. It is to observe how a fleeting thought can crystallize into a deeply held belief, how a collective narrative can become the unquestioned law of your personal universe. The pain you feel, the joy you embrace, the fear that grips you, They are utterly real in their manifestation. The forms they take are vivid, the sensations undeniable. But the source, the essential nature that gives rise to these experiences, is far more malleable, more responsive to the inner landscape than you have perhaps been led to believe. Imagine for a moment a vast ocean, its surface churning with waves, each unique in its crest and fall. You, the observer, are captivated by the individual wave, its temporary form, its apparent journey across the water. Yet, beneath the ceaseless motion of these distinct forms, the ocean itself remains. It is the boundless, undifferentiated mass from which all waves rise and into which all waves eventually dissolve. Your life, your identity, your perceived struggles and triumphs are the waves. The consciousness that observes, the essential being that permeates all, is the ocean. This understanding does not diminish the beauty or the intensity of the waves. Instead, it offers a profound freedom within their dance. It is the quiet power of knowing that the form is not the totality. It is to recognize that even the most persistent shadows cast across your personal journey are transient. They are reflections, powerful in their seeming solidity, but ultimately dependent upon the light of your awareness to define them. The challenge then becomes an invitation to gently question the rigidity of your self-definitions, to trace the origins of your most fundamental beliefs, and to discern what truly emanates from your timeless core versus what has been adopted, assumed, or inherited. It is not about dismissing your experience, but about enriching it with a deeper layer of perception. It is to reclaim the agency of your own awareness, to realize that the most profound illusions are often those we construct closest to home, within the very chambers of our own being. To awaken to this reality is to begin dismantling the forms that no longer serve, and to consciously sculpt a life more aligned with the boundless, formless essence that is your true heritage. The profound inquiry into the architecture of your being culminates now, not in a final pronouncement, but in an expansive, resonant stillness. The echoes of dismantled forms, once perceived as the very bedrock of identity, fade into a quiet awareness of their ephemeral nature. What remains after the gentle excavation of inherited truths and assumed roles is not a void, but a vast, shimmering expanse. It is the landscape of pure consciousness, unobstructed, unbound, and utterly whole. Consider the intricate tapestry of your self-definitions, each thread meticulously spun from memory, expectation, and external decree. For a long moment, these threads appeared to compose an unyielding garment, impenetrable and definitive. Yet, as the light of your discerning awareness pierced through, the fabric itself revealed its inherent translucence. It was never a prison, but a chosen raiment, donned and discarded at the silent behest of an inner authority. To recognize this is to reclaim a power more ancient than any story you have ever told yourself, a sovereignty that predates the very concept of a separate self. The illusion of form, then, is not an error to be corrected, but a magnificent play of light and shadow, a dance of manifestation within the boundless. To perceive its illusory nature is not to diminish the vibrant hues of existence, but to understand the painter behind the canvas, the source of all color and design. It is to sense the deep underlying pulse that beats beneath every fleeting expression, uniting the perceived fragments into a harmonious, unbroken whole. Your journey to this understanding has forged a key, one capable of unlocking chambers within your being that have long lain dormant, awaiting the resonance of this profound truth. Now, as the final veils part, a new vista unfolds before the inner eye. The world itself shifts, not in its outer appearance, but in the lens through which it is perceived. The forms you encounter, the experiences you embrace, the relationships you nurture, all are imbued with a renewed luminosity, understood as expressions of the very essence you have now touched within yourself. This is not an ending, but a glorious genesis, a moment of profound revelation where the distinction between the dancer and the dance dissolves into a single, breathtaking motion. The canvas is cleared, not to be left blank, but to invite the conscious artistry of a life sculpted anew from the limitless wellspring of your true formless heritage. This deep knowing, once felt, becomes the unshakable foundation for all that is yet to be explored, a silent promise whispered from the depths of being, preparing the soul for the grand unfolding of its highest potential. Chapter 5. Anchoring the Self. The boundless horizon of your true nature, the radiant vista of formless heritage, has been unveiled within the sanctuary of your deepest self. A silence, vast and resonant, now lingers, a melody of infinite possibility that echoes with the silent promise of all that is yet to unfold. You have felt the exquisite dissolution, the seamless unity where the dancer and the dance become one, where the very concept of separation yields to an indivisible whole. The canvas, once obscured by the brushstrokes of illusion, now stands cleared, awaiting the conscious artistry of a life sculpted anew, drawn from the limitless wellspring you have touched. This profound revelation, however, ushers in a new threshold, a magnificent paradox that now stands sentinel at the gateway of your experience. For how does one, having gazed upon the endless ocean, return to navigate the intricate canals of the mundane? How does the soul, once liberated by the realization of its own formless expanse, anchor itself within the tangible currents of daily existence without re-entrapment by the very forms it has transcended? This is the sublime dilemma, the sacred mystery that beckons from the heart of integration. To know the truth is one thing. To live it, to breathe it into the very sinews of your manifested being, is another ascent altogether. It is the challenge of the star-dweller learning to walk upon solid earth, not forgetting the starlight, but allowing it to illuminate every step on the ground. The world of forms, with its myriad demands and fleeting dramas, does not vanish with understanding. Instead, it invites a deeper engagement, a conscious participation from a place of unshakable knowing. How then does this silent, boundless wisdom become the bedrock beneath the shifting sands of perception? How does the inner current of eternity flow steadfastly through the temporal river of time, guiding without grasping, present without attachment? What architecture of the soul, what spiritual engineering allows one to embody the infinite without losing the capacity to lovingly engage with the finite? This is not a retreat from the world, but a profound re-entry, an invitation to forge an enduring core that is not of this world, yet is capable of transforming it from within. It is the quest for an unwavering presence, a luminous center, that serves as the true anchor in the heart of impermanence itself. The soul now seeks to translate the ethereal into the manifest, to make the invisible truth palpably real, a living testament to its own divine origin. The path to this anchoring begins not with acquisition, but with a profound discernment. It demands the unburdening, the shedding of what is not truly oneself. Imagine an ancient temple, its true architecture long obscured by dust, clinging vines, and the scaffolding of transient repairs. The task is not to build anew, but to reveal, to uncover the bedrock upon which the true self rests. This bedrock is not sculpted by fleeting accolades, nor etched by echoes of sorrow. It is the uncarved block, the pristine canvas before all strokes of identity. It is the silent observer behind the mind's theatre, the ceaseless current beneath daily existence's tumultuous surface. This is the inner core, the seat of eternity, unaffected by the temporal river's endless flow. To anchor the self is to consciously, deliberately align with this deeper stream. It is to recognize the true distinction between the transient I woven from memories and desires and the eternal I that simply is. The restless mind, often a frantic seeker, must be gently guided back to its source, like a river finding its way home to the ocean. This process is not a battle of wills, but a quiet remembering. This realignment is indeed an act of spiritual architecture. It is the patient dismantling of false supports, the clearing of debris accumulated around the core. Each conscious breath, each moment of pure intent becomes a chisel stroke, revealing the enduring form within. This is not a violent tearing down, but a gentle unveiling, a tender uncovering. The wisdom lies in recognizing what to release, allowing the innate structure to emerge, unburdened. The enduring core, once glimpsed, is not a rigid structure, but a dynamic, utterly stable field of presence. It is the calm eye of the storm, the unmoving center from which all motion originates and returns. From this stillness one does not retreat from the world, but rather engages with it from profound inner peace, untouched by its shifting tides. This is the essence of guiding without grasping, present without attachment. This is the art of holding the infinite within the finite, not a contradiction, but a harmonious dance. It allows full participation in the human drama, to feel its joys and sorrows, to engage with love and compassion without being swept away. The anchor is not a binding chain, but a grounding root, allowing the tree of life to sway gracefully without uprooting. It permits the soul to lovingly engage with the finite while embodying the infinite. This luminous center, this unwavering presence, becomes a beacon. It radiates an inner truth beyond words, a palpable reality from the deepest core of being. It transforms the temporal river into a canvas for eternal expression, where every action is a testament, every encounter an offering, every breath a prayer. The ethereal manifests, not through forceful will, but through gentle, profound alignment with what has always been true. For so many, the days unfold like a river in full spate, rushing and unpredictable. The currents of expectation, the eddies of regret, the whirlpools of desire and fear, they pull at the very fabric of being. One finds oneself often grasping for solid ground, for a fixed point amidst the relentless flow. The spirit, unmoored, drifts upon an ocean of external stimuli, seeking definition, seeking solace, seeking a harbor that forever seems just beyond reach. Yet, what if the ground you seek is not outside you, but a stratum deep within? What if the anchor is not a chain to some external shore, but a profound inherent ballast of self? This is the genesis of the revelation, not a thunderclap in a clear sky, but a dawn that slowly illuminates the familiar landscape of your own soul. It is the moment when the incessant clamor of the world begins to recede, not because the world itself has quieted, but because a deeper silence has awakened within you. Imagine the deepest ocean trench, where no surface storm can penetrate, where the pressure is immense, yet the water remains still and clear. This is the quality of the stillness that emerges. A stillness so profound it acts as a counterpoint to all external agitation. It is the eye of the storm, the unshaken core, the unwavering flame in the darkest chamber. From this vantage, the turbulent waters of daily life do not vanish, but their power to overwhelm diminishes. You are no longer tossed helplessly upon the waves, but witness them from a place of unassailable calm. This luminous center, once perceived as an abstract ideal, reveals itself as the most intimate reality. It is the quiet hum beneath the din, the steady beat beneath the frantic rhythm of existence. It is the truth that requires no validation, for its existence is self-evident in the peace it bestows. The world, with its myriad demands and distractions, no longer defines you. Instead, you begin to define your engagement with the world, no longer a reactor, but an intentional participant. Decisions, once fraught with uncertainty, now emerge from a clearer wellspring. Reactions, once impulsive, are tempered by a deeper knowing, a spacious awareness that allows for considered response over habitual reflex. The revelation is the understanding that you are not merely a leaf caught in the wind, but the very tree itself, rooted deep, enduring through all seasons, extending branches to embrace the sky. It is the profound knowing that your essence is not diminished by struggle, nor enhanced by triumph, for it remains always whole and unbroken. This anchoring is not a retreat from life, but an enhanced engagement with it. It is seeing the sacred in the mundane, finding the eternal within the fleeting. It is the quiet miracle unfolding within the very fabric of your existence, waiting only for your gaze to turn inward and acknowledge what has always been present. Imagine, if you will, the tempest's furious howl, tearing at the sails, a ship tossed upon the relentless waves. Yet, deep beneath the churning surface, a silent anchor holds fast, undisturbed by the chaos above. This is the truth of the anchored self, not immune to the world's currents, but profoundly rooted in an inner stillness that no storm can breach. The shifting sands of external circumstance, the fleeting joys, the passing sorrows, they all play out upon a stage, yet your core, now truly known, remains the immutable witness. You are not the play, nor the player, but the very theatre itself, encompassing all, untouched by the ephemeral dramas. This spacious awareness, once a nascent understanding, now blooms into full recognition. It is the understanding that the essence animating all life, the very fabric of the cosmos, is not external to you, but pulses within your deepest core. The quest for self, it reveals, was always a journey back to what was never truly lost, only obscured by the veils of conditioned perception. And with each breath, each conscious moment, those veils thin, revealing the radiant coherence that has always presided over your being. You begin to perceive the intricate sacred geometry of existence, not as an abstract concept, but as a felt reality, a vibrant current flowing through all things, connecting the atom to the star, the whisper to the thunder. This profound recognition is not a retreat from the vibrant chaos of living, but an enhanced engagement, a dance performed with an inner grace, born of knowing your true footing. The quiet miracle, once a gentle stir, now resonates as a profound symphony within the chambers of your heart. It is the knowing that your essence, whole and unbroken, does not merely endure through seasons, but actively shapes them, weaving meaning into the fabric of your experience. This is the revelation, that you are not merely a participant in the grand design, but an integral, conscious co-creator, your awareness, a beacon in the vastness. This anchoring is not merely a state of being, but a profound activation, a permission granted to the self to fully embody its deepest truth. The journey ahead is not one of seeking to acquire, but of unfolding to reveal, each step a further deepening into the limitless expanse of your own being, a majestic exploration into the boundless wisdom that has forever dwelled within. Chapter 6. Beyond the Visible Spectrum. We stand at the precipice of perception, poised between the known and the profoundly unknown. The visible spectrum, that narrow band of light and sound, has long dictated the boundaries of our accepted reality. We build our worlds, we forge our truths upon what the eye can discern, what the ear can register, what the hand can grasp. This tangible realm, so meticulously catalogued, offers a comforting, predictable scaffold for our daily lives. Yet from the deep core of our anchored self, a persistent whisper now rises. It is a knowing that resonates with a truth far grander, far more intricate than the neatly compartmentalized data of our common senses. This is the central enigma that now unfurls before us. If our essence is whole, our inner wisdom boundless, and our capacity to consciously co-create undeniable, then why does the universe so frequently appear veiled? Why do we navigate existence as if blindfolded to its true, multidimensional expanse, deafened to its hidden harmonies? Imagine a colossal, luminous ocean. We, the conscious voyagers, diligently chart our course by the ripples on its surface, by the glint of sunlight on its waves, believing this limited experience to be the entirety of its magnificent, unfathomable expanse. But beneath that shimmering skin, abyssal currents flow. ancient ecosystems thrive, and colossal truths stir in the silent depths, utterly imperceptible to our surface instruments. Our conventional senses are precisely these limited instruments, registering only a fraction of the ocean's true, boundless reality. The very air we breathe teems with unseen forces, with energies that subtly shape the fabric of our perceived existence, yet remain just beyond the thin curtain of immediate apprehension. What subtle architecture truly underpins the grand illusion of the tangible? What frequencies resonate just beyond our auditory range, carrying messages crucial to our understanding? This, then, is the profound dilemma presented by the realm beyond the visible spectrum. Is our common perception merely a filter, designed not solely to reveal, but perhaps to protect us from an overwhelming influx of unfiltered reality? Or is it, more profoundly, a challenge? An invitation to consciously transcend the given, to courageously expand the aperture of our awareness, to perceive with a consciousness that extends far beyond the mere physical eye and ear. The choice between comfortable limitation and exhilarating yet daunting revelation now stands starkly before us. We are called to question the very nature of the light we deem illuminating, and the shadows we have long accepted as mere voids. What if the most profound truths reside not in the harsh glare of the obvious, but in the subtle luminescence that pulses just beyond the very edge of our accustomed sight? This journey is not merely an intellectual quest. It is a primal call to reclaim dimensions of reality long forgotten, to perceive with more than just the eye, to listen with more than just the ear. It is an unveiling. And the crucial first step is to acknowledge the vast, unseen ocean that lies just beyond our carefully charted maps, pulsing with silent, undeniable life. The perceived boundaries of existence are but artificial horizons, drawn by the limitations of the very instruments designed to navigate them. The light that floods our world, that paints our sunsets and illuminates our faces, is a mere flicker within an immense, unseen ocean. This is not conjecture, but a fundamental truth of the cosmos, a silent testament to the vastness that operates just beyond the reach of the naked eye, the unaided ear. Consider the spectrum itself, that grand tapestry of electromagnetic radiation. What we call visible light is a minuscule sliver, a narrow band nestled between the warmth of infrared and the energetic kiss of ultraviolet. Yet, beyond these familiar neighbors stretch immense, unexplored territories, the long, languid waves of radio carrying silent broadcasts from distant stars, the microscopic dance of microwaves shaping the very fabric of communication, the piercing scrutiny of X-rays, revealing the hidden architecture of matter, and the atomic roar of gamma rays, born from the heart of cosmic cataclysms. Each frequency, each vibration carries with it a unique story, a distinct form of information, a specific energetic signature. They are not empty spaces, but vibrant realms, teeming with silent life and unspoken truths. Our physical senses, honed by epochs of evolution, are exquisitely tuned survival mechanisms. They are filters, not full receivers. They have evolved to perceive that which is immediately relevant to our immediate world, the predator in the bush, the fruit on the branch, the face of another. This pragmatic design, while crucial for our journey, inherently limits our perception to a narrow bandwidth of reality. It crafts a comfortable cage, where the unseen becomes the non-existent, and the unheard remains unfelt. Yet, the unseen is profoundly real. The air around us is a highway for invisible signals, cell phone conversations, radio waves, television broadcasts, a maelstrom of information passing through our very bodies, unnoticed. We are immersed in a dynamic, pulsating field of energy and data that our primary senses simply cannot process. The implications are staggering. If our reality is so rich with unperceived layers, what profound wisdom, what vital connections, What alternate forms of communication have we unknowingly forfeited simply by accepting the narrow confines of our biological design? The journey to perceive beyond is not merely about scientific instruments, but about awakening an inherent capacity within the consciousness itself, a primal memory of a wider, more encompassing perception. It is about understanding that the shadows are not voids, but reservoirs of wavelengths we have yet to learn to decode. Consider the very air you breathe, the space you occupy, not as a void, but as a vast, shimmering ocean of ceaseless activity. Beyond the limited horizon of your visible light, a maelstrom of unseen forces perpetually dances, whispers, and resonates. We spoke of information streams, of energetic pulses that bypass the crude filters of your primary senses, yet these are not distant phenomena existing only in the abstract realm of scientific theory. No, this dynamic, pulsating field is woven into the very fabric of your present moment, an undeniable component of your tangible reality. This is the revelation, the turning of a subtle key in the lock of perception. What if the inexplicable currents of human experience, the sudden shifts in mood, the unexplained anxieties that prickle at the edges of your awareness, the profound sense of connection or disquiet you feel in certain places or among certain individuals, are not merely products of internal chemistry or conscious thought? What if they are echoes, vibrations, direct interactions with this unperceived dimension? Imagine your body not as a solid, inert vessel, but as an incredibly sophisticated array of antennae constantly immersed in this deluge of data, unconsciously processing wavelengths that your waking mind has yet to learn to translate. You are bathed in the transmissions of countless devices, the subtle emissions from every living organism, the faint echoes of cosmic events that traverse light years to reach this point. These are not merely passing through you, they are interacting with your own energetic signature, shaping the nuanced landscape of your consciousness in ways you have scarcely begun to comprehend. The gut feeling, the intuitive leap, the creative surge that seems to materialize from nowhere. These are often the mind's valiant, nascent attempts to decode the deeper resonances of this broader spectrum. Your awareness, without conscious effort, is already dipping its fingers into these unseen currents, drawing out fragments of truth, echoes of warning, sparks of inspiration. The shadows, once perceived as mere absence of light, now reveal themselves as vibrant reservoirs, teeming with data. To acknowledge this is to reclaim a forgotten inheritance, to realize that the narrow confines of biological design are not prison walls, but rather a training ground for a more expansive perception. The journey to perceive beyond the visible is not an esoteric quest for a reality separate from your own. It is an inward voyage, a recognition of the inherent capacity within your own consciousness, a primal memory stirring. It is the profound understanding that to truly know your world, to truly know yourself, you must attune to the symphony of the unperceived, allowing the veiled layers of existence to reveal their intricate beauty and their vital wisdom. This awakening is not about adding something new, but remembering what was always there, humming beneath the surface, waiting for your conscious acknowledgement. The spectrum, once seen as a definitive boundary, now reveals itself as merely a shimmering veil, translucent and inviting. What was once dismissed as the invisible, the intangible whisper beyond the grasp of the mundane, now resonates as a truth deeply felt, a fundamental aspect of the living cosmos. This understanding is not a sudden acquisition, like a new lens fitted to the eye, but rather the slow, deliberate shedding of ancient scales, allowing the boundless light that was always present to finally flood the inner chambers of your perception. You have not journeyed to a distant shore to find a foreign landscape, but rather delved into the profound oceanic depths of your own being, unearthing the ancient charts and constellations etched upon the very fabric of consciousness itself. Consider the human frame, that exquisite architecture of flesh and bone. For eons, it was perceived as a fragile cage, limiting experience to the terrestrial and the tactile. Yet, within this very design, this biological marvel, lies the intricate circuitry for an expansive, unbounded awareness. These are not prison walls, but rather the most sophisticated training ground imaginable, a crucible of experience forged for the refinement of perception, the tempering of the soul's gaze. The world you inhabit is not solely defined by the narrow band of vibrations that register upon your optic nerve or the limited frequencies that stir your tympanum. It is a symphony played on countless instruments, across octaves unseen and unheard, most of which have patiently awaited your conscious ear, your awakened gaze, to truly join the cosmic chorus. The revelation is thus: the capacity to perceive beyond the obvious, to feel the subtle currents that animate all existence, is not an external gift bestowed, but an internal inheritance reclaimed. It is a primal memory stirring from its long, dream-laden slumber, a profound recognition echoing from the ancestral depths of consciousness itself, a resonance with the very source of being. You are not learning something entirely new, but rather remembering a language once fluent, a vision once clear, before the dense, earthly mists of material preoccupation gradually obscured the inner sight, blurring the clarity of innate knowing. This attunement to the unperceived, this listening to the silent, resonant song of the universe, is the profound awakening to your own complete, inherent essence, a homecoming to a forgotten power. To know your world, truly, is to embrace its multi-layered reality, its intricate, hidden tapestries. To know yourself, profoundly, is to acknowledge the boundless reservoir of perception residing within, a wellspring of infinite possibilities. The journey inward has led you not to an empty void, but to a vibrant living nexus where all realities converge, where the seen and unseen entwine in a perpetual dance. This is the profound truth that hums ceaselessly beneath the surface of all existence, waiting for your conscious acknowledgement, a recognition that transforms the perceived limits of reality into mere horizons, beckoning an endless, joyful exploration. The stage is now perfectly set for a deeper engagement, for a true knowing that transcends the fleeting visible, preparing you for the subtle, majestic dance that now awaits your fully opened, sovereign senses. Chapter 7. The Sovereign Eye. The stage is set. The tapestry of hidden realities unfurls, not in some distant ethereal realm, but within the very essence of your being. The threads of understanding, meticulously woven through countless ages of seeking, have prepared the way for a deeper recognition. This moment, suspended between the known and the infinitely knowable, beckons a profound shift in awareness. It is time to speak of the sovereign eye. Consider, for a silent beat, the conventional eye. It is a marvel, undeniably. It gathers light, deciphers color, maps form, and navigates the physical realm with a startling precision, a masterful instrument calibrated for a specific, limited spectrum. Yet, what if the very act of seeing, as we have been taught and practiced it, is merely a single, exquisite note in a grand multi-octave symphony of perception? What if it is but a single focused stroke on a canvas far vaster than any horizon? The central dilemma of our terrestrial existence may not be the absence of deeper sight, but its profound suppression, its gentle slumber beneath layers of societal conditioning, inherited fears, and the comforting inertia of sensory habit. There exists within each consciousness a latent faculty, an intrinsic organ of truth, a lens utterly unclouded by temporal dust or the illusions of transient form. This is not merely a poetic metaphor, but an energetic nexus, an aperture designed for the boundless. It is capable of discerning the subtle, symphonic currents that weave through all manifest reality, resonating within the silence between thoughts. Imagine it as a third horizon, not just beyond the visible light and the elusive dream, but where information breathes as pure, unadulterated intention. where the echoes of tomorrow whisper alongside the vibrant vibrations of forgotten yesterdays. Here, the true nature of reality, stripped of its veils, waits to be perceived. The mystery, then, deepens beyond simple observation, beyond the mere acquisition of knowledge. For if this sovereign I truly resides within, awake and potent, a birthright of every awakened spirit, why do so many wander through life as if perpetually blindfolded by the mundane, caught in the endless loop of the superficial? What subtle yet profound barriers, both internal and external, stand between the magnificent promise of boundless perception and its tangible, integrating manifestation within our waking hours? Is it a deep-seated fear, an ancient reluctance to witness the unfiltered, sometimes uncomfortable truth of existence, or is it merely profound ignorance, a collective amnesia regarding the ancient art and practice of sovereign seeing, a forgotten language of light? This is not a quest for a new, external vision, but for the sacred restoration of an inherent one. It is the profound challenge of meticulously dismantling the very filters that distort reality, of learning to trust the unseen impulses, the silent, resonant confirmations that emanate from the very fabric of being. The dilemma is stark, unwavering in its demand. To remain confined within the familiar, albeit limited boundaries of conventional perception, or to courageously embrace the magnificent, yet undoubtedly demanding responsibility of the sovereign I. For it promises not only to see beyond, but to deeply know the universe in its unfiltered, vibrant, and ceaseless dance, transforming observer into participant and existence into an unfolding revelation. Imagine the universe, not as a disjointed clamor of perceived chaos, but as a vast, intricately interwoven tapestry of pure resonance, perpetually humming with a primeval, inaudible song. This, then, is the forgotten language of light. It is not articulated through the coarse mechanics of spoken word, nor confined to the rigid structures of written script, but manifests as the fundamental essence of vibrational truth, a silent current flowing beneath the clamor and spectacle of the visible world. For millennia, sentient beings have been conditioned to interpret mere shadows, to decipher the faint echoes of reality, rather than to feel the living source itself, to apprehend the signal before its distortion. The filters that obscure this inherent sight, this primordial comprehension, are not external veils draped across the cosmos. They are meticulously woven from the very threads of accumulated belief, of societal decree, of ancestral imprints, and of fear's often cold, often comforting embrace. Each judgment we unconsciously cast, each rigid narrative we stubbornly cling to, each instance we deny the subtle, persistent whisper of our own deep, intuitive knowing, meticulously adds another opaque layer to this intricate obfuscation. We construct our own prisons of perception, believing them to be the only reality. To dismantle these deeply ingrained filters is to undertake an inward excavation of monumental scope, a patient and often poignant archaeology of the soul itself. It demands a willingness to sit in the profound quietude, allowing the incessant, distracting chatter of the conditioned mind to gradually dissipate, much like the ephemeral mist before the inevitable dawning light. In that sacred, fertile stillness, one begins to perceive the universe not through the inherently limited lens of analytical thought, but through the boundless, untamed aperture of pure, unfettered consciousness. The very body, that magnificent biological antenna, begins to vibrate in a newfound harmonious synchronicity with the cosmos itself. A sensation, a profound knowing, a deep, undeniable resonance arises from within, effortlessly confirming truths long obscured, now rediscovered. This is the living language of potent synchronicity, of profound, unbidden intuition, of vivid dreams that speak with startling, undeniable clarity, and of the subtle shifts in energy that betray the surface illusion. One no longer seeks external validation for the unfolding tapestry of reality, for the confirmation pulses from an inner wellspring, an undeniable current of affirmation that requires no outside echo. The sovereign eye, thus awakened, beholds not merely the fleeting forms and ephemeral figures, but perceives the energetic matrices that underpin them all, sensing the profound intent behind every gesture, discerning the layered history within the unyielding stone, and witnessing the future as a shimmering potentiality within the eternal present moment. It is a vision that profoundly transcends all perceived separation, melting the illusory boundaries between self and other, between the ephemeral nature of individual life and the boundless expanse of the cosmos. This profound responsibility of such clarity, however, demands an unwavering, steadfast courage. For to truly see with such unvarnished clarity is to willingly shed the often comforting illusions of ultimate control and predictable outcome. It is to stand vulnerable yet powerful before the unvarnished naked truth, accepting its raw majesty and its terrifying beauty in equal measure, becoming a living, breathing conduit for its ceaseless, unhindered flow. The universe then reveals itself, not as a fixed enigma, but as a continuously unfolding revelation, an eternal conversation in which every single particle, every distant star, every silent, measured breath holds a resonant, meaningful word. And the one who courageously embraces the sovereign eye becomes not merely a passive hearer, but an active, integral participant, a vibrant, living note within that cosmic chord, singing the forgotten language of light once more into existence. When the sovereign eye truly awakens, the vast, shimmering tapestry of universal conversation does not remain a distant, celestial whisper. It descends. It does not merely graze the outer edges of perception, but resonates within the very core of one's being, a soundless thunderclap in the chambers of the heart. The revelation is not solely of galaxies spinning in glorious ballet, but of the intricate, luminous threads that connect every single beat of one's own pulse to that cosmic rhythm. The illusion of separateness, a comforting shroud woven by the ego, begins to unravel. Like a morning mist receding from a sun-drenched valley, the boundaries blur. One no longer stands as an isolated observer, gazing upon a world outside, but rather recognizes oneself as an integral, pulsating component of its boundless, living fabric. The universe is not merely out there. It is woven through you, breathed by you, manifested within the very cells of your ephemeral form. This is the profound truth that spills into every waking moment. The unvarnished reality, once perceived as a grand, impersonal force, now reveals itself in the minutiae of daily existence. The struggle for authenticity, the quiet joy of a shared glance, the ache of loss, the triumph of resilience, these are no longer mere personal experiences. They are echoes, refractions of the universal dance between creation and dissolution, light and shadow. The terrifying beauty of truth manifests not only in the supernova's blaze, but in the courage to face one's deepest fears, to shed the masks held so dear, to stand exposed in the naked light of self-awareness. To accept this, to embrace the ceaseless, unhindered flow, is to become a conduit for something far greater than individual will. It is to let the cosmic current surge through one's own reality, reshaping not only perception, but action. Every choice becomes imbued with a deeper resonance, every interaction a subtle exchange in the eternal conversation. The seemingly mundane act of breathing transforms into a conscious participation in the universe's own exhalation and inhalation, a silent affirmation of interconnectedness. The mind, once a fortress guarding its limited dominion, now becomes a clear pool reflecting the infinite. The heart, once tethered by transient desires, expands to hold the vastness of being. This is where the forgotten language of light begins to find its voice anew, not in grand pronouncements, but in the quiet wisdom of an authentic presence. It sings through acts of genuine kindness, through moments of profound empathy, through the unwavering gaze that sees the divine spark in every living thing, including the self. One becomes, then, a living note, vibrating in harmonious accord with the cosmic chord. The journey through one's own life transforms from a solitary trek into a vibrant, conscious participation in the unfolding revelation. The vulnerability is profound, for it strips away all pretense, yet the power that arises from this naked truth is immeasurable. It is the power of being truly alive, truly connected, truly awake to the magnificent, terrifying, and endlessly beautiful reality that both surrounds and indwells. This is not a theoretical understanding. It is the visceral, undeniable truth of one's own existence, experienced in every breath, every beat, every conscious moment. The gaze that once sought, now simply perceives, the veil between self and cosmos thinned to a whisper. It is the profound empathy, a current flowing outward and inward, that has rendered visible the divine spark, not as a concept, but as the pulsating core of all existence, including the mirrored depths of one's own being. This I, now truly sovereign, perceives the intricate tapestry where every thread is alive, vibrant, and sacred. One becomes, then, a living instrument, not merely playing a tune, but embodying the very resonance of the cosmic chord. The journey through life's intricate valleys and sun-drenched peaks transforms from a solitary passage into a conscious, harmonious participation in the grand, unfolding revelation. This vulnerability, laid bare like polished stone reflecting the infinite sky, strips away all pretense. Yet from this naked truth, a power beyond measure surges forth. It is the silent, unyielding strength of being truly alive, truly connected to the beating heart of the universe, truly awake to the magnificent, terrifying, and endlessly beautiful reality that both enfolds and indwells. This is not a wisdom whispered in ancient texts alone. It is the visceral, undeniable truth of one's own existence, experienced in every breath, every beat, every conscious moment. It is the silent roar of recognition that ripples through the marrow. Having gazed through the sovereign eye, the world is no longer merely seen. It is felt, tasted, heard, a symphony of pure presence. The threshold has been crossed. The profound realization that the seeker is the sought, that the observer is the observed, now fully integrates into the very fabric of being. The path ahead is not a search for something new, but a deeper, more profound dwelling within this sacred, awakened state, where every step is a communion and every moment a further revelation of the boundless within. Chapter 8. Shattering the Mirrors. The sovereign eye had opened, and through its profound gaze, the world was no longer merely perceived but viscerally absorbed, a symphony of existence felt within the marrow. The seeker, truly, was the sought, the observer, the observed. This truth had not merely been understood, but integrated, woven into the very fabric of being, a boundless presence now indwelling in every breath. The threshold was crossed, the initial veil lifted, revealing a reality far grander than any whispered dream. Yet, even in this luminous clarity, in this newfound dwelling within the sacred awakened state, a subtle resistance lingered. It manifested not as an external shadow, but as an internal refraction, a delicate shimmer upon the pristine waters of pure presence. These were the last of the mirrors, not the crude, distorting glass of the world's grand deceptions, but the finely polished facets of self-perception, crafted with such intricate precision over countless cycles. They were the echoes of identity, the residual patterns of I that, though recognized as illusory, still cast a faint, almost imperceptible reflection. One could feel their subtle gravity, a silent, persistent invitation to momentarily step back into a familiar, albeit diminished form. Imagine a vast crystal cavern now illuminated by an eternal dawn. The true forms of all things are revealed, vibrant and unadulterated. Yet, clinging to the deepest alcoves, are tiny, exquisite mirrors, reflecting not the light directly, but the faint outlines of what once was. A silhouette of the ego, a phantom limb of a separate self, a whisper of a story that no longer holds dominion, yet refuses to utterly dissolve. These mirrors, by their very nature, promise a distinct boundary, a finite edge to the infinite. They are the last vestiges of delineation, offering the subtle comfort of a known form, even as the boundless truth expands within. The profound dilemma now emerges. Having glimpsed the utter interconnectedness, having integrated the truth of being, how does one confront these final, most intimate illusions? What does it truly mean to shatter a mirror that is not imposed from without, but woven into the very structure of one's own internal architecture? It is a voluntary surrender that transcends mere recognition, a final act of courage that asks for the dissolution of the very lens through which the self has ever perceived itself. What remains when all reflections are gone, when the last fragment of the perceived I ceases to project its image? This is the profound mystery that now beckons, a call to plunge beyond the seen, beyond the integrated, into the utterly unreflected reality that awaits. The path ahead is no longer about finding, but about the courageous, unyielding act of letting go, until only the pure, unqualified truth remains. The ultimate confrontation is not with a formidable foe, but with the quiet architecture of one's own inner sanctum. For long, the self has dwelled in a palace of mirrors, each polished surface offering a unique angle, a curated identity, a comforting echo of what it believed itself to be. To shatter these, then, is to choose a blindness that promises true sight. It is to step from the familiar warmth of self-recognition into an existential chill, a profound unknown, navigable only through supreme trust. The mirrors that must fall are not mere illusions. They are the very substance of perception, woven from every memory held, every label accepted, every triumph celebrated, every wound endured. Each reflection, however distorted, contributes to the intricate tapestry of the I that has gazed back. To release this construction invites terrifying emptiness, a void where familiar landmarks of identity cease to exist. Imagine the silent chasm opening beneath one's feet, not a fall into oblivion, but a descent into a foundation far deeper than personality. This is not violence, but sacred dismantling. It is a slow, deliberate surrender of the need for definition, the craving for a story, the comfort of a solidified form. The courage here is of a different kind, not to fight, but the profound strength to let go, to witness patterns of belief, assumption, and expectation gently dissipate like morning mist under an unwavering sun. The lens through which the self has ever perceived itself is not fixed, but a dynamic construct, filtering and coloring reality. The shattering is not aggressive, but a compassionate withdrawal of energy from these projections, allowing them to dissolve naturally, revealing what lies beneath. What then remains when the last fragment of the perceived I ceases its projection? Not a void, but an unqualified presence. The I dissolves, collapsing the dualistic framework of observer and observed. This is the primordial ground of being, silent, unbound, prior to all thought, all form. This unreflected reality is not external, but the essence from which all experience springs, the vast, open sky, momentarily obscured by identity. The plunge beyond the seen is a return to source, an entry into pure consciousness, unadorned by personality. Here, the search ends. Letting go becomes arriving. The pure, unqualified truth is not concept, but embodied experience, the profound knowing underlying all knowledge, the silent witness. In this empty expanse where no reflection lingers, existence reveals itself not as entity, but as infinite, unpartitioned awareness. It is the peace transcending understanding, the still point, awaiting the courageous heart that dares to release its reflections and simply, profoundly be. From the profound stillness, where the echoes of form have long faded and the mind's incessant weaving has ceased, emerges a revelation. It is not a distant truth, whispered from mountaintops, but a direct insight into the very fabric of one's perceived reality. The mirrors, once believed to define the contours of existence, are now seen as mere surfaces, reflecting fleeting patterns. Their shattering is not an act of destruction, but of recognition. It is the sudden, startling clarity that the reflection was never the source, but merely an image, momentarily obscuring the boundless ocean of being. This realization penetrates the very core of individual experience. The countless identifications, the narratives of self, the ceaseless striving for completion, all begin to reveal their ephemeral nature. One stands on the precipice of understanding that the I that has navigated through joy and sorrow, through triumph and despair, was largely a construct, a dazzling reflection in the broken glass. The human heart, tethered for so long to these shimmering illusions, now feels the gentle, insistent tug of its true nature. A profound quiet descends. What remains is not emptiness, but an unburdened presence. The weight of accumulated identities falls away like dust from an ancient sculpture, revealing the true form beneath. This is the quiet revolution of the heart, where the incessant clamor for external validation dissolves into an intrinsic sense of worth. The search for belonging ends, for it is understood that one has always been, and always will be, woven into the very tapestry of existence, prior to any thread of personality. The seeking hand now rests, knowing it has always held the very treasure it pursued. With this profound shift, the perception of the everyday transforms. Challenges are no longer personal affronts to a fragile ego, but movements within the vast, impersonal current of life. Relationships shed their layers of expectation and fear, blossoming into connections born of authentic presence rather than need. The world, once a stage for the self's performance, becomes a vibrant canvas, observed and engaged with from a place of unshakable stillness. The illusion of separation, once a formidable barrier, now evaporates like morning mist, revealing the interconnected web of all things. The pure, unqualified truth, once a concept, now pulses as the very current of one's being. It is the silent knowing behind every thought, the vast, open sky behind every cloud. In this dissolution of reflected reality, the individual does not vanish, but rather returns home to an intrinsic, boundless awareness, the deep peace transcending all understanding, eternally present, awaiting only the quiet courage to simply, profoundly be. The final shard of the fractured looking-glass falls silent, its myriad reflections now nothing but memory. What was once perceived as a vast landscape of separate realities, each a distorted echo of an elusive self, has dissolved into the seamless expanse of being. The arduous journey through the grand hall of mirrors, each surface promising a different truth, a different identity to inhabit, has reached its luminous end. Now, only the vast, unblemished canvas of pure awareness remains, stretching beyond horizon and time, yet intimately within. This is not an emptying, but a profound filling, a triumphant return to the boundless wellspring that has always nourished, yet remained unseen behind the veil of illusion. The deep peace, once a whispered promise, now settles as the very ground beneath your feet, unmoving, unyielding, eternal. It is the quiet hum of existence itself, the ancient song of the universe, finally heard without the static and dissonance of fragmented self-perception. In this profound stillness, connections blossom effortlessly, not from the grasping need of an isolated consciousness, but from the overflowing wellspring of authentic presence. The world, no longer a stage for the self's performance or a battleground for validation, becomes a vibrant tapestry, its intricate threads visible in their profound, interdependent dance. You are not merely observing it from afar. You are woven into its very fabric, an inseparable part of its living breath, its pulsating heart. The illusion of separation, once a formidable fortress encompassing all perception, now stands revealed as a mere mirage, its towering walls built of accumulated fear and ancestral misdirection. It has evaporated completely, like morning mist under the unwavering, silent gaze of pure truth. This truth, no longer an abstract concept or a distant, unattainable ideal, pulses now as the very current of your being, the undeniable knowing behind every thought, the vast open sky behind every fleeting cloud. It is the unshakable stillness at the very heart of the tempest, the unwavering beacon in the deepest, most disorienting night. This boundless awareness, this intrinsic clarity, is not a destination achieved through effort, but a state remembered, a homecoming to that which was never truly lost, only obscured by the very reflections you once believed to be real. From this luminous vantage point, the next steps are not to be charted by personal ambition or the fluctuating currents of desire, but are born organically from the infinite wisdom of the unified field. The stage is set, not for another act of striving and struggle, but for the graceful, harmonious unfolding of being, in conscious resonance with the entirety of existence. The mirrors are shattered. The true world, in all its pristine wonder, awaits its gentle, conscious engagement. Chapter 9. The Blueprint Within. The tempest has indeed passed, leaving in its wake a stillness not of absence, but of profound presence. The shards of 1,000 false reflections, once clamoring for attention, now lie as glistening dust beneath the feet of an awakening. This intrinsic clarity, a beacon long obscured, now radiates from the very core of being, illuminating a landscape previously veiled by the mind's intricate projections. One has returned to a homeland never truly departed, only forgotten in the intricate dance of illusion. The echoes of a fragmented past still linger, though their power to define is shattered. From this luminous vantage point, the path forward is not a frantic scramble for external validation or the charting of a course dictated by the whims of desire. Instead, it is a graceful, organic unfolding, a conscious resonance with the unified field that underlies all existence. The outer mirrors are broken. The inner gaze, now unimpeded, seeks a deeper truth. For within this vast tapestry of being, each thread, each soul, holds an inviolable design, an original inscription, a singular purpose, woven into the very fabric of its essence. This is the blueprint within. Yet herein lies the subtle, profound mystery that now beckons. To perceive the true world is one revelation. To live within it, guided by an authentic internal compass, is another entirely. For while the grand illusions have dissolved, the faint, persistent whispers of their former reign can still create a disorienting haze. It is one thing to know that a majestic cathedral exists, quite another to hold its master architect's original plans in hand, discerning every deliberate curve and sacred space. The true blueprint is not merely a vague sense of direction, but a precise, intricate matrix of potentiality and purpose, waiting to be consciously engaged. The dilemma now unfolds. How does one distinguish this divine architecture from the lingering imprints of a self, long accustomed to artifice? How does one silence the ghost echoes of societal conditioning, of inherited fears, of self-limiting beliefs that still attempt to redraw the sacred lines? The true design of being, though etched in immutable light, can feel elusive amidst the lingering noise of a world still recalibrating its frequencies. What prevents the seamless access to this deepest knowing? What veil, however translucent, remains to be drawn aside so that this inherent wisdom might finally guide every step, every breath, every conscious creation in this pristine new reality? This is the journey into the heart of one's own undeniable genesis. The veil, often perceived as a singular obstruction, is in truth a shimmering tapestry woven from countless threads of accumulated experience, both personal and inherited. It is not a solid wall, but rather an atmospheric distortion, a pervasive haze born of forgotten fears and aspirations that were never truly one's own. Imagine a colossal canvas, pristine and vibrant at its core, but over centuries, layers of varnish, dust and careless brushstrokes by hands unknown have obscured the original masterwork. This is the subtle obscuration of the inherent blueprint. The ghost echoes, those phantom frequencies that still attempt to redraw the sacred lines, are the resonant imprints of countless generations. They whisper tales of survival in scarcity, of safety in conformity, of the inherent dangers lurking beyond perceived boundaries. These are not malicious forces, but rather ancient coping mechanisms, deeply ingrained patterns of thought and emotion passed down through the very lineage of being. They manifest as the nagging doubt that shadows moments of inspiration, the sudden surge of anxiety when contemplating true freedom, the quiet voice that insists on limitation even when boundless potential beckons. The self, long accustomed to artifice, has constructed elaborate edifices of identity built upon these echoes. Each brick laid was a belief adopted from external consensus, each window a view framed by societal expectation, each door a path chosen out of fear of standing alone. The dilemma lies not in the absence of truth, but in the overwhelming familiarity of these self-constructed realities. To dismantle them feels akin to dismantling one's very existence, even if that existence is a gilded cage. The mind, in its earnest attempt to protect, often clings to the known discomfort rather than embracing the terrifying grandeur of the unknown. What prevents seamless access is precisely this deep-seated attachment to the familiar, to the narrative of separation and lack. It is the persistent belief in the illusion of external validation, the subconscious conviction that worth must be earned rather than recognized as an intrinsic state. This prevents the true design of being from shining forth, for the authentic blueprint does not require external approval. It simply is. It asks only for the space to express its immutable light. The recalibration of frequencies, then, is a profound act of unlearning. It is the conscious drawing aside of each thread of the veil, not through forceful tearing, but through gentle discernment. It demands a stillness deep enough to hear beyond the cacophony of the constructed self, beyond the inherited narratives of fear. One must learn to distinguish the pure, crystalline resonance of one's own core being from the distorted echoes of conditioning. It is a process of internal alchemy, transmuting the lead of illusion into the gold of innate wisdom. This veil, though translucent, is made formidable by its pervasiveness, by its seamless integration into the very fabric of perceived reality. It is maintained by the subtle fears of insignificance, of inadequacy, of being fundamentally flawed. These fears, like roots in deep earth, anchor the constructed self, preventing it from reaching for the boundless expanse of its true genesis. Yet the blueprint within patiently waits, its light unwavering, its presence an eternal invitation to remember the truth of one's own undeniable origin. Consider now the myriad ways this subtle illusion weaves itself into the tapestry of your waking reality. It is the persistent whisper that deems your worth conditional, dependent on the fleeting applause of others or the accumulation of transient possessions. Observe its grip in the unbidden comparison, the silent judgment that measures your authentic unfolding against an arbitrary external standard. This is no distant abstract concept, but the very air you breathe when fear dictates your choices, when hesitation paralyzes your greatest potential. The veil, though unseen, casts its shadow across your most intimate perceptions. It distorts the very mirror through which you view your own essence, reflecting back an image sculpted by collective apprehension rather than the radiant truth of your singular design. How often have you dismissed an intuitive flash, a profound knowing that bubbled up from the depths, simply because it defied the rigid logic of the conditioned mind? How many nascent dreams have been silently relinquished at the altar of perceived inadequacy before they ever had a chance to blossom into reality? This constant internal negotiation, this perpetual questioning of your inherent completeness, is the subtle prison erected by the narratives of fear, a self-imposed boundary drawn not by external forces but by internal acquiescence. It is the silent, ongoing sacrifice of your boundless self upon the altar of limited beliefs. Yet, within the crucible of daily existence, the blueprint patiently awaits its recognition, an ever-present current beneath the choppy surface of thought. It surfaces as the unexpected surge of compassion for a stranger, a spontaneous act of kindness that defies immediate self-interest. It resonates in the profound peace found in a moment of untainted natural beauty, when the mind quiets and the world reveals its silent majesty, unburdened by interpretation. It is the quiet resolve that arises when confronted with an injustice, an unshakable inner compass guiding you towards truth, even against overwhelming opposition. These are not mere sentiments or fleeting emotions, but direct echoes of your true resonance, reverberating through the static of the conditioned self. They are the initial tremor that signals the tectonic plates of your inner world are shifting, revealing bedrock beneath shifting sands. The revelation, then, is not a cataclysmic event, but a gentle dawning, a slow unfolding of sight where blindness once prevailed. It emerges in the quiet space between thoughts, in the sudden recognition that the endless striving can, for a sacred moment, cease. It is the profound, liberating awareness that the innate completeness you have endlessly sought outside yourself has, in fact, always resided within, like a hidden spring beneath barren ground, waiting to be unearthed. You are not merely a product of your environment, sculpted by circumstance, but a conscious architect of your experience, inherently capable of discerning the authentic from the artificial. The invitation is always present, an unwavering, silent call to pierce through the translucent membrane and reclaim the vast, uncharted territories of your essential being. To step beyond the shadow play and into the unfiltered light of your own undeniable origin. It is the moment you truly begin to remember. The quietude that follows such a remembrance is not an absence, but a fullness. It is the deep, resounding echo of a truth long obscured, now vibrating through every fibre of one's being. What was once a whisper, barely heard above the clamour of external seeking, now rises as a symphonic declaration. The blueprint, once imagined as an external guide or a distant prize, reveals itself not as a map to be followed, but as the very architecture of one's core. It is the indelible design, etched not upon parchment, but within the very essence of existence, predating all striving, all doubt, all imposed limitation. Consider the seed, buried deep beneath the earth, unaware of the sun, yet holding within its tiny shell the magnificent design of a towering oak. It does not search for its oakness. It simply is that potential, awaiting the conditions to unfurl. So too, this inner blueprint is not a mere set of instructions to construct a future self, but the inherent pattern of the authentic self, already complete, already whole. It is the unblemished canvas beneath the layers of painted anxieties and borrowed identities. It is the silent, unwavering pulse beneath the turbulent waves of circumstance. To recognize this is to transcend the illusion of incompleteness, to dismantle the scaffolding of perpetual becoming. The profound liberation arrives with the understanding that the quest was never truly for attainment, but for remembrance. The seeker finds not a destination, but a return to an origin point, a reclaiming of a birthright perpetually present. This awareness unfurls like a magnificent tapestry, revealing patterns of interconnectedness, illuminating the very fabric of reality itself. One ceases to be a mere pawn on a chessboard of fate and awakens as the conscious player, endowed with a knowing gaze. This is not an end, but a pivotal beginning. With the blueprint unveiled, the lens through which one perceives the world is irrevocably shifted. The artificial constructs, the fleeting desires, the external validations that once held such sway now recede into their true perspective, like distant mirages shimmering on a desert horizon. What remains is a quiet power, an inner compass calibrated to an unfailing truth, a magnetic North Star guiding one's authentic course. The journey ahead is no longer a blind stumble through uncertainty, a mere reaction to external currents, but a purposeful unfolding, a deliberate manifestation guided by the luminous wisdom radiating from within. This profound revelation prepares the soul not for stasis, nor for a cessation of experience, but for an intentional, self-authored engagement with the vast, uncharted landscapes that lie just beyond the threshold of this understanding. It is the dawning of an era, a re-engagement with creation itself, rooted in the immutable certainty of one's own divine design. The next breath is drawn, not in hope, but in knowing, and with it the quiet hum of purpose deepens. Chapter 10. Reclaiming the narrative. The hum of purpose, once a whisper, had deepened into a resonant chord within the soul. The blueprint, radiant and immutable, now cast its luminous wisdom across the inner landscape, an unfailing truth, a magnetic North Star. The journey ahead was no longer a blind stumble, a mere reaction to external currents, but a purposeful unfolding, a deliberate manifestation guided by the very core of one's being. This profound revelation had prepared the spirit not for stasis, but for an intentional, self-authored engagement with the vast, uncharted landscapes. It was the dawning of an era, a re-engagement with creation itself, rooted in the immutable certainty of a divine design. The breath was drawn, not in hope, but in knowing. Yet even as this certainty solidified, a disquieting whisper lingered at the periphery of consciousness, a faint discord in the grand symphony of self-discovery. If the authentic course was now clearly delineated, if the inner compass spun true, why did the tapestry of one's outward life so often seem to weave a different pattern? Why did the echoes of past narratives, woven by circumstance or the unwitting hands of others, still ripple through the present moment, distorting the pristine lines of the blueprint within? It is a paradox, stark and challenging, that confronts the awakened spirit. Consider the ancient stonemason, possessed of a master plan, each arch and column etched with meticulous precision in the mind's eye. Yet upon surveying the foundation laid by another, a subtle misalignment emerges, a hairline fracture in the grand design. The structure stands, yes, but its true strength, its intended grace, is compromised, subtly shifted from its original glorious intent. The integrity of the vision, though present, is not fully expressed. So too is the human soul. An authentic trajectory, a divine impulse, vibrates at the very heart of existence. It is the signature song, the unique vibration of self. But from the first breath drawn into this world, other voices begin to sing. Narratives are inscribed upon the blank canvas of potential, sometimes with love, sometimes with fear, sometimes with simple, unthinking assumption. The world, in its ceaseless striving to categorize and comprehend, casts its own shadows and lights upon the individual, often creating a story that is a pale imitation, a diluted echo of the truth that lies coiled within. These imposed tales, though often well-meaning, gradually obscure the original script, like dust settling upon a vibrant mural. This is the profound enigma that now presents itself. A mystery not of overt external forces, but of a more insidious, silent usurpation, an internal surrender to stories not our own. How does the sacred self-authored text of existence become overwritten? By what subtle alchemy does the vibrant, intentional design of one's very being yield to a narrative spun from the loom of societal expectation, familial legacy, or the random currents of fortune? It is a question that cuts to the very quick of sovereignty, challenging the very definition of a self-determined path. Who, then, has been holding the pen, dictating the chapters, if not the sovereign author of this singular life? The unfolding of the true blueprint demands not only its discovery, but its vigorous, unwavering reclamation. The silent question hangs in the air, a cosmic query. Can a life truly be lived if its most fundamental story is not its own? The silent question indeed echoes through the chambers of the soul, a cosmic query demanding an answer. How does one's sacred text, the vibrant scripture of their unique existence, become a palimpsest, overwritten by the hurried hand of another, or worse, by the unconscious currents of the collective? It is a slow, insidious alchemy, not always born of malice, but often of comfort, of an unspoken agreement to blend into the larger weave. Imagine, if you will, the subtle inks of societal expectation. They do not arrive with a thunderclap, but rather as whispers carried on the wind, gentle currents nudging the nascent river of self. From the earliest moments we are taught the acceptable hues, the harmonious melodies, the approved structures of ambition and belonging. A child, vibrant with unbridled possibility, encounters the reflected gaze of the world, a mirror that begins to suggest preferred angles, softened edges. The architect of the self, still learning to wield their tools, might then begin to draw lines not from an inner blueprint, but from the shimmering, often illusory image of what should be. This is the quiet erosion, the adoption of a borrowed rhythm, a narrative not wholly resonant with the soul's deepest hum. Then there is the indelible parchment of familial legacy. Each generation inherits a library, not just of tales, but of unfinished symphonies and unhealed wounds. The threads of ancestral expectation, both spoken and deeply implicit, can weave themselves into the very fabric of one's being, sometimes binding, sometimes blessing. One might find themselves walking paths laid out by the dreams of grandparents, or bearing burdens passed down through lines of silent sacrifice. This is not always a conscious choice, but a default setting, a profound loyalty to the root system from which one sprang. The inherent design, the sovereign intent, finds itself intertwined with a tapestry already rich with history, sometimes overshadowing its own emerging pattern. And let us not forget the unpredictable gales of fortune, the unexpected turn, the unforeseen loss, the sudden windfall. These can act as powerful currents, sweeping the nascent story onto an uncharted shore. A trauma can fracture the initial design, leading to the construction of protective narratives that serve survival, but not necessarily self-actualization. A serendipitous encounter can ignite a passion, yet also divert one from a deeper, more personal calling, simply because the external opportunity shone so brightly. Life, in its magnificent unpredictability, offers countless crossroads where the default path, the path of least resistance, or the path dictated by external circumstance, can subtly overwrite the soul's authentic trajectory. The grand consequence of this gentle usurpation is not always cataclysmic, but often a pervasive sense of dissonance, a quiet ache of misalignment. It is the artist who paints what sells, not what their soul demands. It is the scholar who pursues knowledge for external validation rather than internal truth. It is the life lived with a muted palette, a melody played slightly off-key because the conductor's baton was wielded by an unseen hand. To live a story not truly one's own is to exist in a state of subtle exile, perpetually searching for a home that was always meant to be constructed from within. The true blueprint, therefore, lies not just in discovery, but in the painstaking, courageous, and ultimately sacred act of scraping away the layers, of restoring the original inscription. It is a profound declaration of sovereignty, a return to the pristine source. Consider the hushed moments when the world outside falls quiet and a subtle hum begins within. It is in that profound stillness that the echo of the unseen hand reveals itself, not as a thunderous decree, but as a persistent whisper, subtly shaping the contours of your perceived reality. For many, this is the genesis of the dissonance, the quiet friction between what is presented and what truly yearns to be. Perhaps you have felt it in the hollow victories, the applause that rings, strangely muted, the sense of attainment that tastes like ash on the tongue. This is not the grand betrayal of an external force, but the insidious, almost imperceptible drift from one's own coordinates, the scholar pursuing accolades rather than truth, the artist painting for the market's demand rather than the soul's outpouring, the life meticulously constructed from borrowed blueprints. These are not merely allegories. They are reflections, shards of a fragmented mirror scattered across countless existences. Look inward. Is there a melody you play, slightly off-key, because an external conductor's baton has guided your rhythm for too long? Is there a muted palette in your own story, colors subdued, vibrancy tempered, because the world outside suggested a safer hue? This is not merely an intellectual concept. It is the silent ache in the core of your being, a yearning for genuine resonance. The revelation dawns not in a dramatic flash, but in the slow, undeniable pull of authenticity. It is the sudden recognition that the subtle exile you have felt, the perpetual search for a home that always seemed just beyond reach, was never about finding a new land. It was about recognizing the original architecture within yourself, seeing the foundation that was always there, untouched by the shifting sands of external expectation. The true blueprint was never lost. It was merely buried beneath layers of prescribed roles, inherited narratives, and the seductive siren calls of societal acceptance. The act of scraping away these layers is not a destructive one, but a sacred archaeology. Imagine an ancient inscription, obscured by millennia of dust and debris, only to be meticulously uncovered, one fragile brushstroke at a time. The true declaration of sovereignty is not a battle waged against external oppressors, but an internal reclamation, a steadfast commitment to restore the pristine source of your own narrative. This is the moment when the quiet ache transforms into a powerful current, pulling you back to your own shores. It is the awakening to the understanding that the conductor's baton, the artist's brush, the scholar's quest, and the very narrative of your life were always meant to be wielded by the truth residing within you. This is where the journey truly begins anew, not in creation, but in the profound and courageous act of remembrance. The last grains of phantom dust now drift into nothingness, revealing not a void, but a profound inscription etched into the very core of being. What was once obscured by the accretions of ages, by the whispered doubts and borrowed narratives, now stands in stark, undeniable clarity. This is the sacred archaeology of the self, where the meticulous brushstrokes of insight have unveiled the pristine source of your own narrative, not as a fragile relic, but as an enduring, resonant truth. Observe the quiet ache that once settled deep within the breast. It has not vanished, but transmuted. It has awakened, transforming into a powerful, unyielding current, a river of self-knowledge that effortlessly pulls you back to your own authentic shores. This is not a journey of mere return, but a profound re-anchoring, a recognition of the primordial landscape that has always awaited your conscious gaze. The understanding dawns, not as a sudden flash, but as a steady internal sunrise, illuminating every shadowed corner. The conductor's baton, the artist's brush, the scholar's quest, and the very narrative of your existence were never meant to be external impositions. They were, are, and always shall be, instruments of expression meant to be wielded by the truth residing within you, the immutable essence that predates every societal decree and every fleeting expectation. This revelation is not a creation, it is a remembrance. It is the courageous act of lifting the veil from the inherent majesty of your own being, recognizing the sovereign voice that has silently orchestrated the symphony of your unfolding. To stand on these reclaimed shores is to feel the bedrock of your true identity firm beneath your feet. The echoes of a forgotten self now resonate with clear authority, a testament to the enduring power that has patiently awaited its reclamation. This is the profound pause before the next stroke, the knowing breath before the composition truly begins anew, not in the crafting of what is new, but in the majestic, undeniable recognition of what has always been. The path ahead is not forged in uncertainty, but illuminated by the steadfast light of this retrieved wisdom, guiding every step with an undeniable clarity born of self-possession. Chapter 11. The Unwritten Code. The profound pause, the knowing breath, marked the return to shores long forgotten, yet eternally present. The bedrock of true identity, once veiled by the world's clamour, now stood firm, a testament to an enduring self. Here, on this hallowed ground of recognition, where the sovereign voice echoes with crystalline authority, a deeper question subtly unfurls, like a scroll illuminated by an inner sun. For while the self has been reclaimed, its authentic cadence remembered, what then orchestrates the next movement of this awakened symphony? What silent charter, what unseen compass, truly governs a being so profoundly recognized? What principles, unspoken and unwritten, guide the essence of its liberated unfolding? This brings us to the threshold of an enigma, ancient as consciousness itself, yet eternally whispered anew in every awakened heart. We speak of an unwritten code, not etched in stone, but woven into the very fabric of existence, an intrinsic law that precedes all human construct. It is the language of the cosmos, the silent rhythm of the evolving soul, the fundamental architecture beneath all perceived reality. It is the inherent truth underpinning all phenomena, the gravitational pull toward authenticity that defines every conscious entity's journey, a sacred geometry of being. The dilemma, then, is this: how does one read a script that has no ink? How does one decipher directives resonating not from a page, but from the deepest currents of being, from the wellspring of self? In a world obsessed with explicit rules, with definitions meticulously drawn, the call to an unwritten code often feels like chasing shadows, like grasping at mist. To rely on what cannot be codified, what cannot be empirically proven, presents a profound challenge to the conditioned mind. The mystery is not merely its existence, for its presence is undeniable to the awakened, but rather its interpretation, its precise articulation within the theatre of daily life, and how to distinguish its true resonance from the cacophony of conditioning, from the whispers of fear, from the siren song of societal expectation. The retrieved wisdom indeed illuminates a path, but the landscape of this unwritten code demands far greater sensitivity, a deeper surrender to intuitive knowing that resides beneath conscious thought. It requires unwavering trust in a guidance system operating beyond logic, beyond linear perception. The path ahead calls for more than mere recognition of an inner light. It demands communion with its source. It asks us to attune our being to the subtle, powerful vibrations of this inherent order, to discern its intricate patterns not with intellect alone, but with the full, awakened sensory apparatus of the soul. This is the great challenge, the true initiation, to become fluent in the dialect of the divine, a tongue that speaks without sound, writes without form, yet guides with undeniable, unwavering precision. This unwritten code is both the map and the territory, the law and the liberation, but only for those who dare to listen beyond the audible, to see beyond the visible, and to understand that the deepest truths often refuse to be confined to words, forever unfolding in the silence between them. The silence between words is not absence, but a rich, resonant chamber where the unwritten code plays its profound notes. To enter, one must quiet the external world's clamour, letting thought's incessant chatter recede. This is a deliberate surrender, shedding definitions to embrace pure perception. Here, the soul's awakened senses begin true work, not through sight or sound, but an inner knowing, a deep vibration, a pulse resonating with existence's heartbeat. Imagine an ancient forest, felt in bone marrow, not seen. Each tree, a silent column of wisdom, interconnected by roots, speaking without sound, sharing through an unseen web. This communion, the attunement the code beckons, demands sustained presence, dwelling where logic yields to intuition, where the tangible dissolves into felt reality. Trusting this inner compass, this subtle pull towards coherence, is the challenge, amidst a signpostless landscape. The divine dialect reveals itself less in grand pronouncements, more in gentle nudges, moments of clarity feeling like remembrance, not discovery. It is the sudden insight clarifying dilemma, compassion softening a heart, certainty guiding decision. These are not accidents, but echoes of inherent order, translated into individual experience, leaving indelible marks on consciousness. Fluency in this tongue is a metamorphosis of being, not form. One perceives the world not as separate, but a seamless continuum. Fragmentation's illusion dissipates, revealing intricate interconnectedness. Suffering is understood as misalignment, joy as effortless resonance. Life's currents are navigated not by struggle, but by sensing subtle eddies, allowing the code's wisdom to guide. This journey is a return to authentic self, stripped of veneers. A profound rediscovery of original design, communion with existence's blueprint within the soul. Map and territory merge, understanding as internalized reality. It manifests as unwavering inner peace, a quiet strength withstanding outer tempests. This is the knowing. Words falter, forms change, yet silent truth persists, eternally unfolding in the vast expanse between all things, waiting for a willing heart. Consider now the very air you breathe, the ground beneath your feet, the thoughts that flicker through your mind. You stand, perhaps, amidst the clamor of the world, perceiving 1,000 separate entities, a mosaic of distinct forms and fleeting moments. Yet this is the grand illusion, the persistent whisper of fragmentation that veils a more profound, more magnificent truth. The seamless continuum, once an abstract whisper, now begins to reveal itself not as a distant ideal, but as the very fabric of your present reality, perpetually unfolding around you, and more intimately within you. Look closer at the currents of your own experience. Do you not recognize moments of inexplicable ease, where decisions flow effortlessly and outcomes align with a grace beyond your conscious orchestration? These are the subtle eddies you have always sensed, even if unacknowledged, guiding your vessel with an invisible hand. Conversely, recall the profound discomfort, the gnawing unease that grips you when you strive against an unseen tide, when your deepest self recoils from a chosen path. That is the true suffering, not as a random affliction, but as a precise signal of misalignment, a divergence from your authentic resonance, a dissonance in the grand symphony of existence. Your very body, this vessel of awareness, registers these shifts, the tightness in the chest, the flutter of unease, the sudden surge of vitality and expansive joy. These are not mere emotional whims, but the body's innate wisdom translating the language of the unwritten code. It speaks of an intricate interconnectedness that binds you to all things, an unseen network where every thought, every intention sends ripples through the vast expanse. There is no isolation, only the perception of it, a veil woven from habit and conditioning. The revelation is not of something new, but a profound remembering. It is the shedding of layers, the peeling back of veneers that have obscured your original design, your inherent communion with existence's blueprint. This knowing manifests not as a sudden flash of insight, but as an unwavering inner peace, a quiet strength that withstands the most tumultuous outer tempests. It is the recognition that the map and the territory are one, that understanding is not external acquisition but an internalized reality, a profound integration of truth into the very core of your being. This silent truth persists, waiting, not in some distant realm, but in the vast expanse between your breaths, between your thoughts, in the quietude of your own heart. It is eternally unfolding, a constant invitation to return to your authentic self, to navigate life's currents not by struggle, but by the subtle, intelligent sensing of the continuum. When you embrace this, fragmentation's illusion dissipates, and you begin to perceive the world not as separate, but as the unified living tapestry it always was, always is, and always will be. The gentle hum of effortless resonance becomes your steadfast guide. The silence, which once seemed empty, now pulses with a truth so ancient it predates memory, yet so fresh it unfolds with each new breath. It is the very essence of the unwritten code, not etched on parchment, but woven into the luminous strands of existence itself. You find within this profound integration that the map was never separate from the terrain, nor the seeker from the sought. There is no longer a distance to traverse, only a deepening into what eternally is. Imagine a vast, crystal-clear lake, its surface mirroring the endless sky with perfect fidelity. For too long, the ripples of fragmented thought obscured this pristine reflection. Now the currents of illusion still, and the depths reveal not merely an image but the sky itself residing within the water. This is the truth of the continuum, where external acquisition gives way to internal recognition, where understanding is not a possession but a state of being. The gentle hum of effortless resonance becomes more than a guide, it transforms into the very music of your unfolding. It is the language of the authentic self, now speaking without impediment, a melody that orchestrates your every step with a quiet, undeniable wisdom. The cacophony of division fades, revealing the intricate living tapestry of the world not as disparate threads, but as an indivisible whole, vibrating with an inherent conscious design. Each strand, each hue, contributes to the magnificent pattern, and you, now attuned, perceive its seamless artistry. This revelation is not an end, but a radiant beginning. It is the quiet power that flows when the illusion of struggle is shed, when the heart, now unbound, senses the pulse of life not as an adversary, but as an ever-present current to be navigated with grace. This profound knowing prepares the ground for all journeys yet to come, for it is from this place of unified perception that true navigation emerges. The path ahead is not charted by external directives, but by the subtle, intelligent sensing of your integrated being, ready to perceive the next layer of reality as it gently yet majestically reveals itself. Chapter 12. Awakening to Infinity. The very fabric of the perceived whole, once an intricate tapestry, now trembles on the precipice of boundless revelation. That inherent, conscious design, so recently unveiled in its magnificent pattern, stretches now beyond the furthest reach of any prior understanding. The strands, the hues, the luminous connections you have come to sense do not merely extend, but dissolve into an immensity that beggars the very concept of measure. This is the quiet opening to infinity, not as a mere expanse, but as a living, breathing dimension without end, without beginning, without form to hold its true essence. Picture, if you will, the deepest ocean. You have learned to navigate its currents, to perceive its intricate ecosystems, to feel its unified pulse against your own integrated being. But now imagine that ocean not merely vast, but unbounded. Its horizon line no longer exists. Its depths descend into abysses that defy the very notion of bottom. Every drop within it is not merely connected, but is the entire, ceaseless body of water, vibrating with a truth that shatters all containers. How does the individual current, no matter how profoundly attuned, perceive such an absolute, uncontainable truth without becoming utterly subsumed by its very nature? This is the awakening. It is the moment when the illusion of struggle has receded, only to reveal a far grander, more disorienting challenge. The heart, now unbound, senses the pulse of life, not as a contained adversary or a navigated current, but as an infinite surge. Where does the self, however integrated, find its mooring when the entirety of existence becomes an endless, undulating sea of conscious energy? The unified perception that once brought serene clarity now faces the ultimate test of its capacity. Can a consciousness, however expanded, truly hold the infinite without either recoiling from its boundlessness or dissolving into its magnificent, formless embrace? This is the profound query that hangs in the ether, a silent, cosmic echo. The unbound heart, no longer constrained by the illusion of separate currents, now beats in synchronicity with the cosmos itself. It senses not a pulse, but a roar, a silent, deafening surge of life, not as a river to be navigated, but as an endless ocean that has swallowed all shores. Where once a clear horizon beckoned, now there is only the vast, dimensionless expanse, an undulating sea of conscious energy that knows no beginning or end. The clarity of unified perception, hard-won and cherished, faces its supreme crucible. For clarity, in its very definition, implies distinction, a defined space from which to observe. But what happens when the observer is no longer distinct, when the vantage point itself has dissolved into the very panorama it perceives? This is the ultimate test of capacity, not of strength, but of surrender. The self, however integrated, however resilient in its journey to wholeness, now encounters a reality where its very frame of reference is challenged. Like a single drop of water, having recognized its intrinsic nature as water, now confronts the immensity of the ocean, understanding that its individuality was merely a momentary condensation, an ephemeral form within the boundless whole. To recoil from this boundlessness is to cling to the fading echoes of separation, a primal reflex of an identity that fears its own magnificent dissolution. Yet, to dissolve entirely into its magnificent, formless embrace without conscious apprehension or recognition is to risk becoming merely another wave, losing the unique melody of the self within the cosmic symphony. The profound query that hangs in the ether, a silent cosmic echo, is not merely intellectual, it is existential. It asks, can consciousness, however expanded, truly hold the infinite without either shrinking back from its enormity or becoming utterly subsumed by its very nature? It is a question that probes the very possibility of sustained individual awareness within the absolute. The mooring, once sought in external anchors or internal frameworks, now appears as an illusion within the boundless. Perhaps the mooring is not a fixed point to be found, but a dynamic state of being, a continuous act of conscious communion that is both distinct and inseparable. The mind, accustomed to boundaries, struggles to conceptualize a unity that allows for identity without division, a merging that is not annihilation. This is the disorienting challenge, to exist as both the wave and the ocean simultaneously. It is the realization that the very act of holding the infinite implies a container, and the infinite, by its essence, cannot be contained. The true awakening may lie in releasing the need to hold, and instead to be held by the infinite, not as a passive recipient, but as an active participant in its eternal becoming. It is the final shedding of the skin of separation, even the separation implied by the act of witnessing. When the final skin of separation finally sloughs away, not as a rupture, but as a gentle dissolving into the vastness, a profound quiet descends. This quiet is not an absence but a resonance, the echo of all existence breathing as one. The world, once perceived through 1,000 fractured panes, now reveals itself as a seamless canvas. The distinct edges of self and other, of sky and earth, sorrow and joy, soften, their hard lines blurring into a unified flow. The struggle to contain the infinite, That futile grasp of a mind accustomed to boundaries ceases. The self, no longer a solitary vessel adrift, becomes a single ripple in the boundless ocean, not merely of it, but is the ocean in its momentary expression. The revelation dawns. One is not holding the infinite, but is exquisitely held within it, an integral chord in its eternal composition. This is no distant cosmic truth, but a living, breathing reality woven into the very fabric of every moment. It is the sudden comprehension of the silent conversation between a rustling leaf and the persistent wind, the shared pulse of your own beating heart and the rhythmic tide. It is the recognition of your own reflection, not merely in the mirror, but in the eyes of a stranger, in the strength of an ancient stone, in the ephemeral beauty of a passing cloud. The universe ceases to be an external spectacle, observed from a fixed point. It becomes the intimate experience of your own being, expanding beyond the confines of flesh and bone. The air you breathe is not merely oxygen, but the very breath of creation, circulating through all forms. The light that warms your skin is not just a distant star's radiation, but the illuminating consciousness that permeates every atom. The earlier disorientation, the mind's unease with a unity-defying division, transforms into a profound sense of belonging. No longer an agonizing quest for meaning outside, for meaning is the inherent state of this interconnected existence. Every act, every thought, every sensation becomes a unique modulation within the infinite symphony, contributing its distinct note, yet never departing from the harmony of the whole. Imagine standing at the confluence of countless rivers, no longer separate streams, but the unified surge of water moving inevitably towards the sea. Or picture a vast, intricate tapestry, each thread distinct in color and texture, contributing to an overarching design, a grand pattern revealing its true majesty only when viewed without the illusion of isolated strands. This revelation is the ultimate freedom from the burden of separation, from fear of oblivion, from the illusion of ultimate solitude. It is the awareness that you are not merely a participant in the infinite, but an intrinsic, luminous expression of it. To awaken to infinity is to discover that infinity was never outside you, waiting to be found, but residing always as the deepest truth of your own unfathomable being. A hush descends upon the clamor of former doubts. The currents of understanding flow with an immutable grace, settling into the vast, luminous ocean of self. The grand tapestry, once perceived as disjointed threads, now shimmers with a singular divine coherence. This is the moment when the seeker ceases to seek, for the journey reveals itself not as a path towards an external truth, but as the intricate unfolding of a truth that was always intrinsically here. The illusion of separation, that intricate veil woven from millennia of forgotten truths, now parts like morning mist before the rising sun. There is no longer a you distinct from the cosmic ballet, no solitary note lost in an infinite symphony. Instead, there is the undeniable resonance, the profound knowing that your very essence echoes through every star, pulsates in every wave, breathes within every blossoming fractal of existence. To awaken to infinity is to recognize the cosmic blueprint not merely as a design, but as the living, vibrant architecture of your own being. It is the liberation from the finite prison of self, not through annihilation, but through expansion. Imagine a single drop of water, believing itself utterly alone, adrift upon a parched plain. Then, in a flash of profound insight, it realizes it is not a drop at all, but the ocean itself, condensed into a fleeting form, yet holding the entirety of its depths, its power, its boundless expanse within. The fear of evaporation, of oblivion, dissipates like a phantom, for the ocean cannot vanish. It merely changes form, eternally present, eternally surging. This revelation reshapes the very ground beneath perception. The world is no longer an external stage where a solitary drama unfolds, but a vibrant, interconnected dance, and you are not merely an audience member, but a vital, irreplaceable movement within it. Every shadow holds a deeper light, every silence an unspoken melody. The burden of ultimate solitude, the gnawing anxiety of being utterly distinct and perishable, lifts with the weight of a forgotten dream. What remains is an abiding peace, a profound sense of belonging that transcends all earthly concepts of kinship or community. It is the homecoming to a reality that was never truly left, only forgotten. This is not merely a philosophical insight, but an embodied truth that resonates in the deepest cells of your being, transforming the very act of living. The questions that once haunted the midnight hours, who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? Now find their answers not in definitive statements, but in the boundless unfolding experience of being this infinity. The journey does not end with this awakening. Rather, it begins anew, purified of the weights of illusion. From this vantage, a new horizon beckons, not of striving or acquisition, but of pure, unadulterated expression. The infinite, once perceived as a distant, abstract concept, is now the very breath you draw, the vision you hold, the love that flows through the heart of all things. It is the quiet, resplendent truth that underpins all reality, waiting not to be discovered, but to be remembered, and then to be lived. And in that living, the true purpose, the true joy, and the true power of infinity finds its magnificent, eternal echo. Conclusion: the infinite unfolding. The questions that once tethered the spirit, the desperate whispers of, "Am I here? What is my purpose?" now dissipate like morning mist before the rising sun. For the truth revealed is not a definitive answer to be grasped, but a boundless state to be inhabited. The search for a discrete here was the illusion itself, for the infinite does not reside at a point, but pervades all being, a vast tapestry woven from awareness itself. And purpose, once perceived as a singular, external mandate, dissolves into the magnificent, unceasing act of becoming. The quiet echoes of a grand design reveal themselves not as a rigid blueprint, but as a living, breathing symphony, continuously composed by your own awakening. The universe does not exist outside this profound realization. It pulsates, vibrant and undeniable, within the very core of your expanded consciousness. This liberation is not an escape from a confinement, but a triumphant arrival into the boundless expanse of true self. The chains of perception, once forged from definition and limitation, lie shattered, mere relics of a forgotten dream. You are no longer merely an observer, a fleeting shadow at the edge of the infinite, but its very pulse, its boundless current, flowing with unadulterated strength. The striving ceases, replaced by an effortless, majestic flow, a natural unfolding that requires no external validation. Purpose transforms into pure expression, the artistry of existence itself. Each thought, each breath, each act becomes a vibrant brushstroke on the canvas of eternity, not seeking applause, but radiating intrinsic, undeniable worth. In this profound remembrance, the quiet authority of creation itself stirs and awakens from within, dissolving the ancient chasm between the seeker and the sought. There is only the unified, unending dance. You are the eternal echo.